Oh, I never really recropped you, so you were in what looks like a postage stamp of your face. Mostly just below the eyes, so let's fix that. What's going on, everybody? As I recrop Adam, Wednesday, November 21st, 13 game slate, I believe. I'm just going off the top of my head there. Pure guess.
Yeah, it's 13.
There we go. Big one before lovely Thanksgiving coming in tomorrow. Yesterday's 4-gamer was relatively unappealing, unfortunately. Adam, did you enjoy your night?
I would have enjoyed it a lot more if DraftKings hadn't implemented late swap this season and I was stuck with what I had at 7 o'clock. So no, I did not.
Yeah, that happens. God bless FanDuel and their drop your lowest score type nonsense. I love it. Best feature ever, some might say.
Or not.
Yeah, most people won't. Most people won't say that at all, unfortunately. We've got a lot to get to. I assume this will be one of our shorter shows.
Yeah, not a lot to talk about.
No, not too much. Just 26 teams in the NBA playing today. Must be nice to be one of those 4 teams that don't play.
Right, yeah, 2 days off.
Yeah, I'm super happy. Get to go see your family and shit. Well, I mean, hey, maybe they're not happy. 1 extra day to be in the strip club if you're James Harden. Oh, nope, they play today. 1 extra day to be in the strip club if you're John Wall. They play today? No, they're off.
Do not.
Yeah, there you
And
go, John Wall.
they're coming off a big win, lots to celebrate.
Yeah, didn't look like it was going to go that direction out of the gate.
No, they looked absolutely awful.
Yep, looked like there was going to be I assume there was going to be a fist fight and a trade at halftime.
Yeah. Also, just as a side note about the Wizards, I love how after the game, Scotty Brooks is like, yeah, Satoransky, it's on me. I really need to play him more. You know, he's playing really well. The dude's been on the team for like 3 years now. Yeah. He's played really well every single chance he's gotten. And it takes him like coming off the bench and sparking a comeback for Brooks to be like, man, maybe I should play this guy more minutes.
Yeah, he was phenomenal last year in Wall's absence. He's just like he's a really solid dude. He should be playing. I mean, in a perfect world, he's probably playing like 20 minutes a night somewhere. Yeah. He's not in any position to really play 20 minutes a night in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, he should get like he obviously should get the backup Wall minutes, but then play him some minutes at the wing instead of, I don't know, Porter. He sucks. But like,
good luck with that one.
He's like the only non-prima donna on the team that actually goes out there and like hustles and plays defense and just does the things that you have to do to actually win a game. And he's just relegated to the end of the bench.
Yeah, it's insanity.
Actually, they should play him over Austin Rivers, who they should play him over.
That's a very good point. I mean, you can make a case they should play him over John Wall, but that's neither here nor there. I only like half believe what I'm saying too.
Yeah, there are certainly times where I question it.
Yeah, like if they were able to trade John Wall, like unless you're trying to get a very young point guard back, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean they won't have the upside, but they'll still be competent in that department.
Sure. If they could do some sort of John Wall trade that got them back a comparable return to what the Clippers got back for Blake. If you got some like Tobias Harris type character, like they're going to be a better team for sure by making that trade.
Yeah, I agree.
13 games. I think it's time to just dive right in.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh man, this is going to be fun. Are you excited for this? Like this slate? Maybe not this show.
Kind of, just because we had a 4-gamer yesterday, but in general, I don't really like full slates either. Like give me 6 to 8 or like 9 games and I'm happy.
I'm like mildly excited because this feels different.
Yeah. I'd be more excited too if I hadn't just decided that I was switching over and going back to single entry and 3 max. And so now I'm sitting here looking at this slate like how the hell am I going to make one lineup?
Yeah, I don't think that I'm going 150 today, oddly enough. I think I'm going like 3 and 5 max. Which is I don't know why I would do that on a 13 gamer, but
like I enjoy it more overall because I don't know, I enjoy like actually putting thought into a specific lineup instead of like a group of them and everything. Yeah. But on this slate in particular, I'm just sitting here like, why am I even doing this to myself?
For sure. Yeah, there's something about like not wanting to deal with re-crunching 150 lineups at 6:45 when they sit Chris Paul for rest.
Right. That's true.
Like I didn't want to go. I didn't want the aggravation. Like I'll take him out of the one lineup that I have and be done with it
Right.
if I
And
have him
yeah,
at all.
right. And you know there's going to be a ton of news like
Yeah,
round 6.
it's gonna be miserable. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Whew. The Charlotte Hornets hosting the Indiana Pacers. 110.5 implied total for the Hornets. 107 for the Pacers. We're gonna start with, I don't know, the best player in basketball, Kemba Walker. 9,300 on FanDuel, 9,800 on DK. Look, I'm never going to get Kemba Walker at 9,800 on DraftKings in a projection system, just using regular projections. He's playing out of his mind right now. He's so fun to watch, but at the same time, like, there's no way I'm playing Kemba today.
I just accidentally clicked the filter on my projections, and so where I thought I had Kemba, it flipped back. It reverted to Giannis, but I didn't realize it, and I thought I had Kemba projected for 63 points. I was like, all right, well, this updated quickly.
That's the craziest part of that is you were just like, I mean, I guess.
I feel like that's a little ambitious, but yeah, maybe, whatever.
Yeah, I can't do it at 9,800. He's not going to be owned. This is a really difficult matchup against Indiana. But, I mean, if anybody can go out there and drop a 21-point fourth quarter on a good defensive team, apparently it's Kemba.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. Like, he's never going to be somebody that I get to at that price, especially on this slate. There are so many guys to go to, obviously. But it's at this point, it's not even to say he doesn't have a ceiling at that price. It's just that you're paying for the ceiling instead of for what he's going to do, 80% of the time or whatever.
Yeah. I remember thinking last year, like, Kemba was regularly at 8K on FanDuel, wiggling around that 81, 82, and it was like, I really don't like Kemba when he goes to like 83 or so. Like, I just have a hard time getting that value. He's just kind of like a 40-point guy. And now it's like, he's 9,300 on FanDuel, and it's like, he might be underpriced. Like, maybe not for this particular matchup, but just in general. He's playing...
Yeah.
They're going to pay him now. Like, 18 months ago, my thought process was, they're going to trade him, or pay him, and it's a terrible contract. And now it's like, well, fuck it. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Well, so I've always thought Kemba was just one of the best players in the NBA because I've had this conversation with Eddie before on a show. Since I don't follow the like actual NBA that closely, like everything that I watch and think about is in the context of DFS. And Kemba's just always been one of my favorite DFS players. So there was like a show a year or two ago I did with Eddie where he's just like, so who do you actually think is better, Kemba or, like X? And he's naming all these guys that are like clearly better than Kemba. But in my like mind, I'm just gonna like, I would rather have Kemba. Like, I'd rather have Kemba. Like, yeah. So I've always been a pretty big Kemba fan. So I'm glad to see my dumbass takes being rewarded.
Yeah, it's just, I'm happy for him, man. Like, he's clearly worked hard to get to this point now. So good for him. That said, if you want to have a little bit of him on FanDuel, knock yourself out. It's not going to take much to get above the field. And on DK, I mean, you're going to be different if you have him. That's it. I don't have any. I mean, like, it's a terrible value in any projection system. If Kemba's popping up in a projection system highly, I would find that system dubious if they're providing you like median projections.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's what it really comes down to. Kemba clearly can drop 60 points, which is nice at 90 whatever, 93 or $9,800. But realistically, there's a lot of guys that can drop 60 points, like Devin Booker, or Zach LaVine, or you can keep naming guys. And so when you're paying for that upside and not really getting the value, that's why it just becomes like a not great play, even though he still has a ceiling.
Ownership is out.
1% on Kemba.
I'm getting to it now. Get it. I mean, that would be my expectation. It's certainly not 30. Alrighty. DK ownership pasted. Nope, not pasted. I lied. Now pasted. Who do you think the chalkiest guy on DK is tonight?
I have no idea.
Wendell Carter.
Damn, that was actually going to be one of my guesses, but he hasn't been that popular.
Yeah. Kemba is 0 on both sites, essentially. He won't. I mean, it'll be like 2 or 3. But makes sense to me. Before we keep going, 1, check out the ownership projections. 2, like and subscribe. And then promo code NBA Strategy, 7-day free trial if you're interested. Any package at all that you would like to pick. If you're interested in using Fantasy Cruncher for as an add-on for our site, pick a package with Fantasy Cruncher. Otherwise, it will not be included in the trial. So NBA Strategy is the promo code. Hit the like button. Back to the Hornets. Lots of value on DK, whether that's Jeremy Lamb or Cody Zeller or my boy Nick Batum, Marvin Williams. Batum, you woke up a little bit 2 nights ago. I was happy. I mean, as happy as someone can be playing Nick Batum. What do you want to do with Charlotte here? Because it's clearly not an appealing matchup.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to like. I think that Lamb's price on DraftKings is still appealing. He's just still sitting there at 5,400. He didn't close the last game, which is annoying, and it's just kind of a reminder that outside of Kemba, this Charlotte rotation is just it's really kind of depends on who the hot hand is. You know, sometimes you're going to see a bunch of Tony Parker, sometimes you're going to see Bridges take minutes, sometimes Lamb's going to play 34 to 36, but where he's still priced down and where we still have MKG out, which does open up a little bit easier path to those minutes for Lamb, I think that he's still too cheap.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there. Lamb looks good. Not really getting any ownership. The only guy that we have with some ownership on FanDuel is Nick Batum at 5%, 4,800 on DK. Look, I'm going to advocate for that, but not hard. I don't really have much else to say about the Hornets. I'd like to watch this game. I like both of the teams, but I'm going to have a hard time going to much of anything in Charlotte. What? Any interest in Malik Monk at minimum salary on FanDuel?
Not outside of the fact that it's FanDuel and you can get rid of him.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean I don't find it like appealing or anything, but I didn't know if there was any reason to look at it. He hit my 15% cap on like low price guys, and I didn't know if there was anything I was just missing off the top of my head.
I'm pulling up their last game now on Popcorn Machine, but he had kind of, yeah, I mean, he's barely in the rotation right now. Like, he played 8 minutes last game. Dwayne Bacon, Borrego had talked about wanting to get Bacon back in the rotation or get him more minutes, and he's been doing that the last few games. Monk's not really been playing a lot.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and readjust these Monk minutes.
I'm sure he'll play 28 minutes now. But
yeah. Give a little bit more to the Baconator. That should work. Well, there goes any ownership to my man Malik. Sorry, Malik. Let's go to Indiana. Uh-oh. No, we're still live. Why is Restream saying ready and waiting for new messages in my chat? Live, right? Yep, good. Whatever. I got nothing. Victor Oladipo, 8,900 on FanDuel, 9,100 on DK. That's a bit of a tough sell for me. And I'm not entirely sure about his health, but I like him a little bit for 8,900 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, he's still questionable, right?
To my knowledge, yes. I don't know why I said it like that. Yes, he's still questionable.
Like, why would he play today? He clearly has tomorrow off. He's dealing with a knee injury. Like, I don't know.
I mean, he shouldn't.
Right. And he has a history of knee injuries. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if he plays, whatever, he's not someone that I'm prioritizing here. I think that the shooting guard position on this slate is just pretty deep with really high upside guys that essentially are playing point guard. And so that makes me not really want to pay up for Oladipo. Obviously, it's kind of the same as Kemba to me. He can go out there and have a monster game. There's no doubt about it. But there's just so many plays on the slate that I'm not getting to Oladipo.
If you knew he was in, would you be okay with him on FanDuel for 89?
I'd be okay with him, but I assume that I don't have FanDuel pricing in front of me right now. I assume is Drew Holiday priced around him and Levine and Booker?
Drew Holiday. Okay, we'll have fun here. Drew Holiday's 88.
Yeah, okay, so I'd take Holiday over Oladipo.
Sure. Butler 84.
Toss up. Probably would go Oladipo there just for ceiling.
DeRozan 87. Sorry, going back up.
Kind of the same play as Oladipo.
And then Levine 83, Booker 79.
Yeah, easily playing those two guys.
There you go. Yeah, I would have assumed he was going to be out. If the line is 2.5 in Charlotte right now, he is certainly expected to play based on the Vegas line, because the Hornets are going to be more than 2.5-point favorites at home against the Pacers if Victor Oladipo is not playing. At least I would imagine they are.
And you said the line's at what right now?
2.5.
Charlotte's favored?
Yeah. I assume that line is bigger if Victor Oladipo is not playing.
Yeah, probably.
But something to keep an eye on. We're looking at this through the lens of in right now. If he's out, let's talk about Tyreek. 5,800 on FanDuel, 5,400 on DK. Are you going back to him if we know Oladipo's out?
Yeah, probably. I mean, he obviously disappointed in that last game, but there's just not really a reason to dislike him. You know, he didn't close that game, which obviously is really annoying, but it also wasn't a competitive game. I mean, they ended up winning by 27. He just didn't play in the fourth quarter. You had a closing lineup of Aaron Holiday, Doug McDermott, Corey Joseph, Sabonis, and Bogdanovich. Like, Collison didn't play, Evans didn't play, Turner didn't play. So I'm not reading too much into the fact that he, disappointed in that game. He's still like the guy on offense there. He's still going to have, a 28 to 30% usage rate. He's still going to have the ball in his hands. So I'll go back to him, especially because on a slate this big and after a disappointing game last time, his ownership, it's not like he's going to be 80% owned again.
Right. Yeah, he'll be the only guy that I would really want to pay attention to really, really pay attention to. I would have some Collison interest and some Corey Joseph interest on FanDuel if Oladipo is out. Do we want to talk about Sabonis and Miles Turner?
Yeah, Sabonis, I would say I'd still have interest in if Oladipo's out. We had the quote from McMillan before the last game about wanting to play Sabonis alongside Miles Turner more without Oladipo. And we didn't really get to see what that meant because we got a few minutes next to each other in the first quarter. We got a few minutes next to each other in the third quarter. But we didn't get to see a real closing lineup. So I don't know if we would have gotten Turner and Sabonis closing together. But without Oladipo on the floor, Sabonis averages like 1.4 points per minute. And Oladipo plays so many minutes that even though Sabonis comes off the bench, a lot of his playing time is still alongside Oladipo in their regular rotation. So You're talking about a massive boost for Sabonis on a permanent basis when Oladipo doesn't play.
Something to pay attention to. If Oladipo is in, he's not a guy I'm looking at. Just a little too expensive for me on a 13-gamer.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like when Oladipo's out, he gets a boost in usage, but he also gets a boost in assist percentage. He obviously is a really, really good rebounder. I mean, we saw him, almost grab his first career triple-double in that last game. Finished it, I think it was like 18, 9, and 9 or something. And that's just the kind of production you get when Oladipo's not on the floor. So I think that, if Oladipo's out, then I'm giving Sabonis a couple of extra minutes in the hopes that he does play more time alongside Turner, like McMillan had said, but also just really bumping up his rates, and it makes him a pretty good play.
Zach Mazikowski says, Tyreek, a terrible play at the price. Won't exceed 24 minutes. There you go. Now
Why?
Because he won't.
He played 27.2 last game.
Well, he won't now, though. I don't think you're understanding correctly.
In 3 quarters.
No, I don't think he is. I think he is a terrible play if Victor Oladipo is playing. Well, maybe not terrible, but like...
No, terrible. Absolutely awful.
There are way more terrible plays than Tyreek Evans at that point, but I wouldn't play him.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Evans was a borderline bad play at 4,200 with Oladipo, and now he's 54.
Very true.
But yeah, I mean, assuming Oladipo's out, like there's no reason to dislike Evans. He's more fairly priced than he was last time, but it's not a spot where you can look and say, man, his price tag jumped $1,200 or whatever because he was just criminally underpriced for his role before.
Agreed. We're on the same page here.
Yeah. Collison gets a boost as well.
Yeah.
So does Bogdan. The whole team gets a boost if Oladipo's out. He just has such a big role on offense in terms of scoring and in terms of facilitating that everyone on the floor gets a boost.
Agreed. In Charlotte, it's most likely a close game. Hot takes are flowing on this day before Thanksgiving. You guys all already start drinking for Thanksgiving? Good God. I love you all. Let's move on.
I should have grabbed a beer. I didn't think about I forgot that I could get away. Well, I forgot I could get away with it at 10 a.m. the day before Thanksgiving.
I mean, if you want to go get one, I'll have one too.
Good for now. Maybe the second half of this show.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain that. I don't have anything else besides just work. Well, it's not in the HR policy to my knowledge.
No, I've been doing it most days lately, so.
The morning show?
Oh, no, 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 no.
I was like, holy fuck, man.
That could explain my recent losing streak.
Oh, okay. Philly and the Pels. Sixers 119.25 implied total. Pelicans 115.75. This is the biggest total of the slate, and just an absolutely awesome basketball game to watch tonight. I'm super pumped. I love my in-laws dearly. I sort of hope that they're not here at 7 o'clock tonight so that I can just sit down and watch this. We'll start with the second best offensive center in basketball, Joel Embiid. 11,200 on FanDuel, 10,800 on DK. Look, the price is not appealing when you just look at it on the surface, but he just keeps being incredible. This is a really, really nice spot for him. I'm going to have some Embiid as I have for the entire season. He's on another level right now. 1.62 points per minute is his rate that I just have as his base. Insanity.
Yeah, I was looking last night to see what the rates were for Ben Simmons and Butler when they played alongside each other. And so I just happened to notice that I think it was 89 minutes with Simmons and Butler on the floor this season, Embiid still has like a 34.5% usage rate. So it's actually gone up over that really small sample. But the big thing is that he's still getting those minutes by himself. They're not staggering Butler and Simmons, at least as of last time I checked. I'm pulling up their game against Phoenix now. But yeah, you're still getting those minutes where Joel Embiid is on the floor with guys like JJ Redick, Furkan Korkmaz, Markelle Fultz, not anymore, obviously, Mike Muscala.
Yeah, do we need to pour one out for Markelle Fultz in Philly?
Man, that's a mess.
It's bad. They didn't even know he was going to do that.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what to make of that whole thing.
I feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, he's from like the same area as me, so I'm rooting for him, but it's a mess.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he went to high school in the same county as me.
How did he end up in Washington?
I don't know. I don't think he wasn't that highly or that heavily recruited out of high school, I don't think.
Was he you don't watch college, do you?
No.
I was going to say, was he... I can't remember when Romar left. No, it's not important.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I was going to say, Romar was a pretty decent recruiter for Washington's sake.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Fultz just wasn't really a heavy recruit out of high school, and then he turned it on in college.
There you go. 8% expected ownership for Embiid on DraftKings, 6% on FanDuel. It's just, I want to have some Embiid. It's hard to avoid him. He has a legitimate 80-point ceiling.
Right. He's like the guy where if I were playing 150 lineups, I would be overweight, but single entering, I would just be really surprised if I have him, and it really disappoints me. It's just that the position's so deep, and there are so many, there's so many high upside guys there, and there are so many guys to pay up for on this slate where without forcing it, I just expect that I'll have trouble jamming him in.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, if he's at 6% at 6 o'clock tonight, I'd have 12 to 15%, somewhere in that neighborhood, pretty easily. Actually, I'd probably go to up to 20. He's got too high of a ceiling.
Yeah, and he's just been so consistent. I mean, in those minutes without Simmons on the floor this year, he's averaging over 1.6 points per minute, and that's an average. That's not factoring in that this is an up-tempo game, or just a fast-paced game in general against New Orleans, where he should be really productive. So there's really just nothing not to like about him here.
You've been debunked on Fultz's status coming out of high school.
He was heavily
top 5 recruit.
Okay, so how did he end up at Washington?
I'm guessing Romar then, and maybe they hired his uncle.
Yeah,
that's generally a pretty normal status. What do you want to do with Ben Simmons? 9,700 on FanDuel, 8,600 on DK.
I just can't get there on this slate. We're seeing him seemingly get more acclimated to playing alongside Butler. The usage has certainly been trending in the right direction. He was 24.3% last game, 20.9% the game before that, 16.9, 11.9. So clearly going in the right direction. I expect he'll stabilize in that 20 to 21% range now that Butler's there. 9 assists in each of the last 2 games, 8 before that. So he's back to doing what we expect from Simmons. It's just that I expect I'll end up prioritizing guys like Holiday and Booker and Levine over him a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have a little bit, nothing crazy. I would much rather pay up for Russ tonight. So I don't need to be there for Ben at 9,700.
Yeah. To me, he's kind of just like a slate casualty for me. Like if this were a 6 or an 8 game slate, I would be really excited about him here.
Yeah, I mean the game itself is fantastic from a fantasy perspective. So Jimmy Butler though, 8,400 on FanDuel, 7,100 on DraftKings. I mean, I think you just have to he's chalk, or at least expected chalk. 24% ownership on DraftKings, but a guy with his skill set at 7,100 is a hard thing to skip.
Yeah, for sure. And he hasn't been great in his time with Philly. Like he had that one game against Utah where he played really well, but outside of that, he's disappointed from a fantasy standpoint. The one thing that does stand out is that he is not playing as many minutes as he was in Minnesota, which I don't think is particularly surprising, but the natural tendency, I think, is always to just plug Jimmy Butler into 36 to 38 minutes, and projecting him for 32, maybe 34 is, I think, more what we should be looking at here. And he hasn't been, a high usage guy. You've actually seen Ben Simmons getting more than him lately. Embiid obviously is going to get his. So I do think that he's a completely different player from a fantasy standpoint than we had in Minnesota. But that's not to say that 7,100 isn't just too cheap here.
Yeah. Pelicans 4th in my pace rankings. Philly 2nd. I mean, this is going to be a track meet. Do you want to go to anything else from Philly? Mike Muscala is 4,000 on both sites. That would be significantly more appealing to me on FanDuel if Mike Muscala wasn't a center, but he is. So it makes it a little bit, especially on a 13-game slate, punting center feels like a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't get there with his price coming up and Wilson Chandler's minutes going up. I mean, Chandler played over 31 minutes in the game against Phoenix, and that's where a lot of Muscala's playing time was coming from. So even with him kind of edging out Amir Johnson and stealing backup center minutes to Embiid, he's still going the wrong direction as far as minutes he can possibly play with Wilson Chandler playing more. So I'm not looking to go there. I do have interest in JJ Redick. I just think that he's still underpriced for a spot where he should play north of 30 minutes. It's obviously a pace-off spot or a fast-paced spot in general, but not a great Pelicans defense, and he should get plenty of wide-open looks here. So I think Redick is a really good play.
Okay. Adam Burst in the chat said Wilson Chandler is the best play from this game, which is, Wilson Chandler's burner account is in the YouTube chat today. Wilson Chandler, 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DK. I'll happily use him on FanDuel at 3,800. That's a no-brainer. I wouldn't consider him to be a good play. He's just a play that works in a system where you can drop the lowest score.
I mean, I think he's a good DraftKings play, too. He's only 3,400. He got up to 30 minutes last game, or 31. And this is the kind of game where I do like guys like Chandler. He's obviously not a high-usage guy. He doesn't grab a ton of rebounds. He doesn't do a whole lot that matters for DFS, but in these fast-paced games where he can run into extra defensive stats and where there's just more possessions in general, those are the games where you can just kind of sneak out a quietly good game from Chandler.
Yeah, he's a great value play, but he is one of the few guys in DFS that could play 30 minutes and maybe go zeros across the board at the club trillion. There are times where, I mean, even when he was I guess we'll call him the second option in Denver, however you want to say it, where he would play 34 minutes and have 6. And I was like, what? How do you do that? How do you be so vacant? Yet here we are. Nobody else from Philly, right?
No, just the starters basically.
Gotcha. We'll go to the Pels now. 12-2 for Anthony Davis, 11-4 for him on DraftKings. I can't imagine wanting to spend the extra $1,000 on AD on FanDuel and not take Embiid outside of just positional constraints. That extra $1,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I feel the same way on DraftKings. It's only $600, so it's obviously more appealing, especially when you factor in that you can roster Davis at the forward position. But my thing also is that on DraftKings, he's essentially the same position as guys like LeBron and Giannis and Durant, all in that price range. So nothing wrong with Davis. We've obviously seen the usage, him be more aggressive. The usage is going up for him. We're seeing Mirotic go back into his role where he's not stealing shots from Anthony Davis, and that's been good. But with Drew, what really sticks out to me here is, unless I'm game stacking this game, it's not likely that I want Holiday and Davis, because that's just allocating so much money to the Pels, and the guys that I would want to run it back with from Philly are relatively expensive. So where Drew Holiday is only $8,100 on DraftKings, that feels like a lot more of a discount than 11.4 for Davis. And I like the idea of getting my New Orleans exposure through Drew instead.
That makes perfect sense to me. We have AD at 15% ownership on FanDuel, 7% on DK. Much like what you said previously, if you're playing 150 lineups, pretty easy to get to that 7% number of Anthony Davis, but it's just easier to get to someone else slightly lower priced if you're trying to jam in one lineup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if ownership projections somehow it's not even feasible with how many expensive guys there are. But if Davis, comes in at 7% at 630, and everyone else in that range is 20% or something, I don't think that's even possible. But then sure, Davis would become my favorite. But assuming they all kind of steal ownership from each other and come out relatively close, he's not.
Ooh, we've got another Fultz update. Fultz was a late bloomer in high school, didn't become a top 5 recruit till his senior year, didn't play varsity right away, and he played JV as a sophomore.
Okay. I definitely thought I had read something about him being a late bloomer.
There we go. You mentioned liking Drew. Any interest in Nico or Julius Randle, Eton Moore? I like them, but
yeah,
I don't like them.
Right, exactly. I think 6,900 on Nico is a nice price point, but you just really have to be cognizant of him seemingly going back to the low usage role that we expected. When he came over from Chicago last year, if you look at the minutes he played alongside Drew and Davis, even without Rondo, without Boogie, he wasn't a high usage guy. He was in the 18.5%, 19% usage range. And then at the start of this season, he's coming in 24%, 25%. And it was surprising, and it was something that I didn't really know how to project. Well, he's gone back to where he's low teens in usage most nights now. The price tag is readjusting, and he's still rebounding really well. It's obviously still a nice game for points, but I just still would prefer going to guys like Drew or even getting all the way up to Davis.
Okay. You want to touch on anything else for the Pels?
The obvious that Drew gets a big boost without Elfrid Payton in the lineup. More ball handling, more assists, a little bit more usage. So that's why I'm so high on Drew.
Makes sense to me. God, I really want to watch that game. That's exciting. Moving on to a game that I don't want to watch, the Atlanta Hawks hosting the Toronto Raptors. Hawks 109.25 implied total. Raptors 115.25, 6-point favorites in Atlanta. Atlanta defense bad. Toronto defense good. I don't know why I just did that. Sometimes I'm just the worst. Maybe most times, probably. We'll start on the Atlanta side. Pretty solid pricing for DK. Trae Young 7,300 on FanDuel, 6,600 on DK. I like this here on relatively low ownership for this slate, 7%. Trae Young can put up a ceiling game at 66 here.
Yeah, he certainly can. My concern is just, this team's just still an absolute joke as far as the rotations that they run. We got 37 minutes from Trae Young against the Clippers, and I'm hoping that the philosophy is kind of, if he's playing well, he'll play a bunch of minutes. But we've just seen such awful rotations. They're still playing however many guys you're allowed to have on an NBA roster. That's how many are playing for the Hawks right now. And it just makes it so you just have to know you're taking on a ton of risk, because not only are you taking on the risk of Trae Young doing nothing in 34 minutes, not making his shots or whatever, you're taking on the risk of him splitting minutes with Jeremy Lin any given game because he doesn't play well and Jeremy Lin does. and we're just seeing, hockey line changes basically night in and night out from Atlanta. So you just have to understand how much risk you're taking on. It's not to say he doesn't have ceiling or that he's not underpriced for his ceiling. It's just a very volatile play.
Okay. Nobody really getting any love on either side, FanDuel or DK, from Atlanta. So is anybody standing out to you as someone you want to play? Potentially, I don't know, $4,200 Dwayne Dedmon. John Collins is not really exciting to me, although he's fantastic when he plays. I just don't know if we can get him any more than like 19 minutes. Anybody standing out for you?
Not really, just because of there are so many games on this slate. And I mean, Dedmon played 24 minutes. Len played 23.6. Collins played 20. It's just, I like the price tag on Dedmon. I just don't feel confident that you get more than, 24 minutes all that often. And I think that there will end up being better spots to go to here. So I just don't see myself, especially, in single entry 3 max, if you're playing 150 and you want some exposure to the high upside guys like Dedmon and Young, then, by all means. But for me, where I'm trying to, play not optimal, because I hate that word for tournaments, but play like a single lineup or 3 entry. I just can't get to these guys because the rotation is just so thin.
Yeah, Ricky in chat just. Oh, I hear myself. Says Vonleh at 4,100, Collins at 5,100. I can't go to Collins here. That's FanDuel pricing, but 100% agree.
Yeah, completely agree.
Let's move on to Toronto now. Is Kawhi playing here?
No.
I have him in right now, and I probably shouldn't, huh?
Yeah, I think he was either ruled out or listed as doubtful or something.
I'm going to be honest with you. By the time I got to Toronto in looking through these minutes, I didn't start at Toronto. They were last. I stopped giving a shit. He doesn't even have a tag on him on Roto World.
Yeah, last I saw, he's doubtful. Anunoby and Miles are questionable. It sounds like Miles they think is going to play. Anunoby sounds more legitimately questionable.
If there's any news here. Miles, right adductor, 4 games straight, made solid progress, practice Monday. Possible he can be available tonight. OG, wrist. I don't know, he practiced Monday as well with a wrap on his wrist. So
it's his shooting wrist too, so.
Yeah. I have OG out. I have CJ Miles out. I have Kawhi in. So let's take Kawhi out. We'll do this on the air. Here's the how to do this real time lesson, everybody. Make shit up and look at their old minutes. All right, so what are you doing? Do you have Miles and OG in right now?
Right now I have Miles in. I have OG and Leonard out.
Okay. That's probably the most likely scenario, although I don't get the sense that TJ Miles is going to play a ton of minutes either way.
That's kind of why I like it with Miles in and OG out, because if OG's out, then you do get some semblance of minutes to Van Vliet and DeLon Wright. If Miles is also out, then obviously you get even more.
Yeah.
But like if OG's in, then it just takes away any semblance of value from those Toronto guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, OG really just doesn't need a shooting wrist.
That's true. It also makes a big difference for, not that I'm interested in Atlanta, but for anyone who is, it makes a big difference defensively if you run their numbers with like the starting unit this year. If you put like Kyle Lowry and Danny Green on with Kawhi, and then you take off Kawhi, obviously it gets worse. But if you take off Kawhi and OG, like not a huge sample size, but they've become like they get bad.
Yeah. All right, Kawhi out now. That should make this look a little bit different. What do you want to do with Serge and Siakam?
I like them. I don't know how much I'll get to him. I think that 6,600 on Siakam, he's like the mid-range power forward that I really like. You're just locking him into a ton of minutes, especially if OG is out again.
Yeah.
Because that's his direct backup, and you end up having to just like kind of slide guys down, and you should get around 36 out of him. He also is more productive without Kawhi. got a reasonable assist percentage for what he does. It's surprisingly high. He gets a usage bump without Leonard out there, so I think he ends up being a really good play here. Kyle Lowry, I think, is a really good play. Ibaka depends who's starting. Like they could very easily start Valanciunas against Alex Len, in which case I would like Valanciunas quite a bit.
Yeah.
But whoever starts at center, I think, is a good play as well.
Man, I hate rostering J-Val. He looked so bad, a week ago. The night that Greg Monroe went crazy. I had both of them. Just watching Jonas not even be able to back down. Who was it? Somebody on the Pistons. Stanley Johnson, maybe? Somebody, some Pistons wing. One of those idiots.
Yeah.
Couldn't put a move on him. Couldn't do anything. I was like, you might be cooked. Now he'll go for 20 and 20 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of those guys that the minute you bump him from 20 to 24 minutes, he just jumps off the page as a value play.
Yeah, the 1.33 point per minute guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all these guys out, I mean, Kyle Lowry at 8,200 has to be appealing if Kawhi's not playing. Danny Green at 4,600 has to be appealing. Fred VanVleet on FanDuel, just in general, he's chalky now, but 4,500 is appealing. Shout out EMAC, I guess.
Yeah, so one thing that I was actually pretty pissed at myself, I forgot that it was something that had tilted me last season. I forgot about it until I was watching the most recent Toronto game that Kawhi was out. If we get VanVleet starting again, Kyle Lowry really has a tendency, and this is going back to last season as well, to when he's on the floor with VanVleet to just kind of go stand in a corner. And VanVleet runs the offense, and it's insanely annoying. But it's just something to keep in mind with if VanVleet starts. If you look at the rates that Lowry has this year without Leonard on the floor, he's got a 24.5% usage rate and a 45% assist percentage. And if you use those numbers, he jumps off as a great play.
Yeah.
But if VanVleet starts, I think we do just want to pull those numbers back at least a little bit to account for the fact that VanVleet just runs the offense such a high percentage of the time.
Can we talk about DeLon Wright for a second?
Sure.
Why is he not really involved?
I don't know.
I can't wrap my head around it. I feel like he's good. I feel like they kept him on purpose because he's good. And now he's just sort of not a part of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the clear backup to VanVleet. Not backup, but backseat.
Yeah. I assume he didn't get into any real trouble in this last one, but 13 minutes? 19 minutes with Kawhi out and OG out and CJ Miles out and Norm Powell out. You only got to 19 minutes on the 17th?
You only played 19 minutes in that game?
Yeah. Unless I have a bug in my data.
No, I hadn't gone back and looked. I just thought that it felt like he had played more.
It was 26 in the game before that, but those were the games last year where you would have a guy or two out for the Raptors. He'd play 26 minutes at $3,800 and he was 60% owned. Now he's just an afterthought.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I can't figure it out. He's a guy I want to like. I mean, he's 3,600 on DK. If these guys are out, you think to yourself oh, DeLon Wright can be a great play here, but it's a tough sell for minutes. I feel they're much more likely to give him to Lorenzo Brown and I don't know, too many minutes to Malachi Richardson and all these other assholes.
Yeah. I mean, in that game against Chicago, it was a blowout, but VanVleet played 29 minutes in 3 quarters. DeLon Wright played 19, subbing out with 6 minutes left in the fourth.
Right. I can't wrap my head around it. Oh, maybe he's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first thought. He did miss a lot of games earlier this year.
Yeah. Just weird. Nick Nurse must not be a big fan. I got nothing else for this game. It's really ugly, but there's too much news to really dig into anything else.
Yeah, I mean, as weird as it sounds, OG, Anunoby, and CJ Miles news plays a big role on the slate.
I give thanks to that. Boston Celtics hosting the New York Knicks. 116 implied total for the Celtics, 102 for the Knicks. Celtics, good defense, although someone in chat's probably going to yell that it's not true. Knicks, 4% worse than average, giving up fantasy points. Start on the Boston side where Kyrie Irving is 9K on both sites. How much Kyrie do you want on DK at 9K?
Probably not a ton. I mean, it's kind of like Kemba to me. Like Kyle Lowry's $800 less. You can play Zach LaVine at point guard for 7,900. You can play Devin Booker for less than Kyrie. It's a really nice spot for him. We're seeing the usage jump up quite a bit. I think that he's a good play. I just don't think he ends up being a guy that ends up like on my short list of guys for single entry or three max.
Everybody's like, we're going to go over the 3-hour mark. We're not going 3 hours today. I can promise you that. Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time paying $9K for Kyrie here. It would have to be a really weird game for Kyrie to play like all of it and pay off $9K.
Yeah, I mean, I have him projected for like 46 points on DraftKings, which is good. Yeah. But I just don't think it's going to be what gets him into like single entry or three max lineup for me.
I'm with you. Is there anything on Boston that you're interested in? We do have Chalk Gordon Hayward on DK for 5,500. Gordon Hayward, a guy that you want to play?
Well, Alfie and I talked about this one a lot just because on one hand, I hate Hayward's played bad. He's not been good this season. And there's a reason his price is where it is. I hate waiting for guys like him to have a good game though, because then you just missed it. But there are legitimate concerns, and they make sense because this Boston team is so deep. They have so many guys that can contribute as secondary options behind Kyrie that you don't have to have Hayward step up into a high usage role anytime soon. And we've seen that. He has an 18.2% usage rate so far this season. So I think that just looking at it Gordon Hayward's playing 30 minutes, he's Gordon Hayward, and he's cheap is probably a mistake, because this is not Gordon Hayward in a, leading role anymore. This, at least as of right now, while he's still, working his way back into being as good as he was before. So from that standpoint, I think that he just kind of comes in as a guy who, if I need, a cheap $5,500 play, he's one of the guys that I like. I think I would still prefer JJ Redick at that price point, but he's not someone that I'm really looking to force into my lineups, especially if he's going to be popular.
That makes perfect sense to me. I didn't get any on my first crunch. I can't imagine really prioritizing him either. And of all the guys on this entire team, he is the guy that's going to play the least amount of blowout run for sure.
He got blowout run last time.
Did he really?
Yeah, again, that game that he was chalk against, I don't remember, maybe Chicago or something. Chicago, and he started off with 2 fantasy points in the first half. He ended up getting there because he played the fourth quarter in a blowout.
I mean, okay, then never mind. That's not something that I would have quite expected.
I'm pulling it up now just to double check that, but yeah, I mean, he played until there were 5.5 minutes left in the fourth in a game the Celtics won by 33.
Okay, you do you, Gordon. Terry Rozier for 3,900 on FanDuel, I think, has a little bit of appeal here. If you think this game goes well for the Celtics, which would be hard to not think that it does.
Yeah, sure.
That's it. I don't know. Just under 4K, people become a little bit more interesting. Terry likes to shoot when he has the ball. And fantastic rebounder. Sneaky. Let's go to the Knicks, where I'd rather just throw this whole damn team in the garbage.
Yeah.
Noah Vonleh, and that's it.
What'd you say?
Noah Vonleh, and that's it. It's the only guy I actually trust.
Yeah, no, I stand by my tweet yesterday that if there was one thing that I could change in my life that would immediately improve my quality of life, it would be just kicking the Knicks out of the NBA.
Yeah. I was pretty heavily invested in Vonleh yesterday. I was watching the end of that game, and he missed 2 free throws that I believe would have tied the game. It could have been a 1-point game if he made them both. I can't really remember now, but it was brutal watching him miss them both. And he missed that second one like he was super nervous.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really torn on how to approach this team. Obviously, Vonleh had a monster game yesterday, but so for one, I'm approaching this as if they have the same starting lineup that they did last night, which I think is a huge question mark.
I was gonna say, you don't have to do that with any sort of confidence. No. He's going to hit the random number generator. It's going to be like, we got Mitchell Robinson, Vonleh, Cantor, Hazonia, Damian Dotson, who
0 point
yesterday.
Guard,
right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, assuming that it's the same lineup, we got a bunch of minutes from Vonleh. He's been productive this year. The concern would be that playing alongside Hazonia and Cantor, he really should not be productive. You don't get much usage from him. Cantor most nights is going to take a lot of rebounds. So I'm a little concerned, especially assuming he becomes really popular here. But the price tag's still cheap enough that those all become, kind of secondary concerns because it's just hard to fail at $4,100. So, I'd be
Not
fine
per
with.
Travis Wade in chat. Vonleh is busting tonight.
I don't disagree. I mean, if he's, especially on a slate this big, if he were to get to, high ownership, I think it's pretty easy to get away from him.
Oh, yeah. So he's at 9% on DK, 28% on FanDuel. He could bust on FanDuel. He can't really bust on DK at 4,100 and sub 10%.
Yes.
Maybe our definitions of bust are different.
I mean, Vonleh can give you 13 points here.
Sure. But, like, if he's not owned and he's giving you 13, is he really a bust?
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, just semantics of what we call a bust. On FanDuel, at 28% expected ownership, if he gives you 13 fantasy points, he has busted.
Right, yeah, sure.
Same page.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, Vonleh I think is fine. It's just you have to understand the risk that comes with it, and that what he did last night is not what I would expect as long as he's playing alongside Cantor and Hazonia, but especially Cantor. So that's a little concerning. I still think that Cantor is the one that's more underpriced. The rotation still is obviously an issue. We don't really know how many minutes to expect from him, but 6,200, I think he still has plenty of upside. Hazonia at 3,400 only played 17 minutes last night, so I have less confidence in him than either one. The one guy here that I think is really interesting is Trey Burke, who he scares me because what was it, like 4 games ago he was barely even in the rotation, and now he's the first guard off the bench. But with this, with the lineup they're running out there now, he's playing with Kevin Knox, Alonzo Trier, Mitchell Robinson, and Frank Ntilikina. There's no one out there looking to take shots other than Trey Burke, who gladly will take any shot that you give him. If he's going to play 22 to 24 minutes at 4,200 and naturally have lower ownership because he's coming off the bench, there's certainly upside here for Burke.
I completely agree. I had a pretty decent amount of him yesterday. 4,200 for him on DK is just a fantastic price point for the type of player that he is.
Yep.
I hate everyone here. I'll play some Cantor again and hate myself for it. I probably won't get to all that much Hardaway just because when I ever try to get him, I usually want to bring it back on the opposite side, and I don't find anything particularly appealing to grab from Boston. So if I do have any shares of Tim Hardaway, it's going to be minimal. Vonleh is the guy for me on FanDuel. I don't love the 28% ownership, but at 4,100, he's certainly need to be looked at and played in some sort of volume. I hate Moutier. He's 3,900, so you can't ignore him. It's just a really, really, really awful team to try to figure out what you want to do in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're talking about a team that's playing for nothing and that, for the most part, has a bunch of interchangeable pieces that are unlikely to differentiate themselves from each other on a performance basis, it just opens the door for a lot of volatility. So I think the best way to approach them, in general, is when people are off of them, you play them more. When people are on them, you play them less. Hopefully the fact that Cantor sucked last night and and he was really popular drives down his ownership tonight at still a really nice price tag. But yeah, it's kind of like the Hawks, except a little bit more appealing version.
2% expected ownership for Cantor on FanDuel, 4% on DK. That is appealing.
Yeah, I mean, if Cantor is that low owned, he's someone that I would gladly have in even single entry.
Agreed. At 6,200, like a 45-point Cantor day is very, very possible here.
Yep.
I mean, it's Boston's never a good matchup, but it's not like Cantor's super worried about anybody over there. I mean, I'm sure he thinks that he could, really fuck up Al Horford.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still got, if you take out like Trey Burke subbing in for the last 2 minutes of that game, you're still looking just off of his rotation at close to 30 minutes last night.
God, I hate Trey Burke. This career renaissance, or whatever word you want to call it, is so bizarre because he's not good. He just happens to play for the Knicks.
Right. He's on a team that will let him run around and just chuck up shots.
Yeah, it's Do you want him back, Washington?
I'll keep Satoransky.
There you go. What about for Wall?
I
mean,
no,
I
I do
assume
not
you.
want Burks.
I assume you would trade Wall for Burke straight up.
Because of the contract.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I like John Wall. I hate the contract, but
yeah, I get it. Let's move on. Hey, we're through the 7 and 7:30 games. 4 games down, 55 minutes in. Uh-oh. Chicago Bulls and the Phoenix Suns. Oh my god. You know, I would have expected a higher total here. How slow do these teams play?
Very.
Phoenix mid-pack for me. Yeah, not as very as I would have expected in my numbers. Not that
I expected this to be like a or I was thinking like 113 to 110 or something.
Agreed. 107.5 for the Bulls, 105.5 for Philly. 2-point favorites for Chicago. Congrats. 2 worst defenses from a fantasy perspective. Battling it out here. We'll start with Zach LaVine and the Bulls. 8,300 on FanDuel. 7,900 on DK. He's at 20% expected ownership. But, I mean, if this one doesn't make you like Zach LaVine, nothing will.
Yeah, I don't really know how not to like him here. And I've said that almost every slate this season. And he keeps being like 20% owned no matter what.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just the price tag is so cheap and he plays so many minutes in competitive games that when he has a bad game and he shoots, 6 for 28 or whatever, he gets you enough points that you're happy. And sometimes he's actually going to make shots. And those are going to be games where you really would like him in your lineup.
Sometimes he's actually going to that got me. Yeah, it's really hard to not like Zach LaVine here. There's nothing resembling defense on Phoenix outside of, I guess, Ariza. And even that's, getting old. Yeah, I'm in for some Zach LaVine. Now, caveat here. I got none on my first crunch, which doesn't really shock me, but that won't be the case as I start massaging ownerships. I don't anticipate keeping, let's see, what do we have that's really ridiculous? 48% Kawhi Leonard on that crunch where, he's not playing. I won't have 52% AD. Give me some LaVine, man. Doesn't get much better than this spot.
Yeah, and so just kind of to put it in context of the slate, and because I felt kind of like taking like the easy way out when we talked about like Kyrie and it's being like he's good but I don't like him. I have Zach LaVine projected for more raw points than Kyrie at a cheaper price tag, and that's why it's just difficult to even entertain the thought of going to guys like Kyrie or Oladipo or Kemba.
I have LaVine just under Kyrie as of right now, but I mean, it's close enough that you're like, oh, well, yeah, I'll take the extra 1,000.
Right.
What else do you want to do with the Bulls? I mean, I feel like we almost have to talk about everyone. So we've got Jabari at 6,200 on FanDuel, 6K on DK. Wendell Carter is chalk on DraftKings. Justin Holiday plays for the Bulls. Shaq Harrison. I don't. Blakeney. This team. The bottom part of the NBA is just really, really awful.
Yeah. So Wendell Carter's minutes have been down lately, and I'm not buying into that because he had, I think, one game where he was in foul trouble, one game or a couple of games where it blew out. But I mean, if you look at the last game Chicago played, it's when they lost by 40 to the Raptors. Wendell Carter played 22 minutes, but he didn't play in the fourth quarter. He played 8.5. He played like 13.5 first half minutes. So that would get him to like 26, 27 minutes. That even seems low to me, though, for what I would expect him to actually play. So I think that he's cheap enough now that even if you project him for those 26 or 27 minutes, he comes out as a good play. But if you factor in that he still has the upside to play over 30 minutes here, because realistically in a competitive game, as long as he's playing well and not in foul trouble, he shouldn't be losing that many minutes to Robin Lopez. When you factor in that upside, he just becomes a guy that can absolutely end the slate.
Sounds good to me, man. 5,500 is just such an appeal. What do you want to do with Wendell Carter if he is 28% owned? Does that change anything for you?
Not really on a slate this big, because I think the price tag is just so good. And I think that he's like, if you compare him across positions, like using DraftKings pricing, Jeremy Lamb, Gordon Hayward, like these are guys that we like that at this price point at other positions. I'll take Wendell Carter's ceiling over those guys by a mile.
Yeah.
And so on a slate this big, it's pretty easy to differentiate because there are just so many options. And even chalk is, just lower owned in general. So I don't concern myself with it quite as much. So yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I would be happy to just play regardless and be different somewhere else.
Is there anybody else you want to talk about from Chicago that stands out to you?
Jabari's a good play, but I would put him behind Levine and Carter.
Even better on FanDuel, 6,200.
Yeah, that's nice.
Priced similarly to Torian Prince, $200 cheaper than Gordon Hayward. Yeah, Jabari in a good spot there. And a fantastic game. So, yeah, sign me up for Levine. Sign me up for Jabari. Wendell Carter, not a guy that I'll have much of on FanDuel. He's 6,900 there. There's a little bit less utility in that price point.
You can
go ahead.
No, I just want your thoughts, like in general too, because obviously this isn't one of the highest totals on the slate, but it's high enough. But looking at the DraftKings pricing and how soft it is for both of these teams, it's just jumping off to me as a spot where I can game stack here and just have so much excess value because these guys are so cheap that it makes up for, obviously, like I would love to game stack the Pelicans game, but those guys are all expensive.
Yeah.
Here I can game stack this game where we know where almost all of the offensive production for both teams is coming from. And just it's so affordable that I don't know. I think that doing like a 3-2 like Levine, Parker, Carter with Booker and Ayton or something is actually really appealing, even though it's not one of the highest totals.
Yeah, and I would expect those guys to have relatively low ownership. I would expect the total for this game to keep people off of it a little bit, since it's just visually not going to be at the top of any like game total lists or implied total lists. So
right,
I like the idea of game stacking a game where both defenses are just absolutely dreadful. Let's go to Phoenix. Do you think we get point Devin Booker again tonight?
I would think so, and I'm excited for it.
Oh my, 7,900 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DK. It would be really difficult to not like someone as much as I like Devin Booker for 7,900 on FanDuel. You don't normally get someone at an $800 discount at FanDuel compared to DK. And Booker is, this is just an absolute no-brainer. I love it here.
Yeah, I don't know how to not play him on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I will admit that he's not even overpriced. He's overpriced relative to Drew Holiday and Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
But I just love point Devin Booker so much that I'm still going to consider, especially if Booker becomes really appealing to me on DraftKings because of the correlation with Chicago so underpriced on the guys we just talked about. Booker is like the first guy, obviously, to run it back with.
Yeah.
And so where I'm saving money on guys like Carter and Levine, I'm okay with paying a little bit more to get the correlation with Devin Booker here, especially assuming he does get the starting point guard.
X Cossack says Suns coach said lineup would change according to matchup. Booker probably won't start as point guard tonight with matchup. I don't know why this matchup would make you stop doing Booker at point guard.
Yeah, what was the matchup last time? I don't remember. Philly?
Was it Philly?
I think so.
It was. Yeah, this is more of a Booker at the point matchup than anything I could think of. I'm pretty sure that Booker can handle guarding Archie on their way back.
Yeah, I just don't know why they would change it.
But I can't see a single reason to do it. No part of this would make sense other than they just wanted to start Bridges because it was Philly.
Yeah, I don't know. If it changes, it changes, but I don't know why it really would.
It makes no difference to me on FanDuel at 7,900 for Booker. Like, they could start him at center for all I care.
Yeah, for sure. It makes a difference on DraftKings just because he's still, like, even if he doesn't start at point guard, he still has the ball in his hands a ton, and he still gets assists. But it just becomes so much better when he's the true point guard.
Someone asked in chat, Booker or Levine? It's got to clearly be Levine on DraftKings, and I would say that it's pretty clearly Booker on FanDuel.
Yep.
Yeah. Similar dudes. I think Booker is probably a better basketball player than Levine by a hair, but I'll take the cheaper guy in this matchup almost always.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And both of them play huge minutes as long as the game's competitive. So you have that going for them as well.
Yep. Let's talk
I'm trying to
about
get
the rest of Phoenix.
I'm trying to get up Booker's numbers as point guard alongside TJ Warren since last year.
Okay. While you do that, we'll talk about DeAndre Ayton, 7K on FanDuel, 6,900 on DK. No real issue going to Ayton here. This is even think about the fact that this was Ayton versus Wendell Carter. You know, two bigs from the draft. I'd like to see what you'd have to think like Wendell Carter comes out of this one looking better, just because he is more of a defensive-minded center. So if he can slow down Ayton at all, makes it tough for Ayton.
And because you hate DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, that's probably true too. I actually had a lot of Ayton 2 nights ago, I guess. Was kind of surprised that it happened too. TJ Warren, 7K on FanDuel, 6,700 on DK.
How much on FanDuel?
7. That's a lot.
Yeah, that seems tough. DraftKings, he's not. I'm not opposed to him at all, but I think that he's kind of like Devin Booker, where since he's more expensive than Enes Kanter, he's obviously more expensive than Carter on DraftKings. I don't love the idea of having him by himself, but I do like working him in as a correlation play if I'm, stacking up Chicago.
Yeah. Travis Wade says game stacking is not a great idea for today's slate.
Okay.
The answer I expected. Do you expect Trevor Ariza to go bonkers again? 4,800 on FanDuel, 51 on DK?
I like the price and the minutes. It's just I don't really see getting to him that much on this slate. Like, assuming they stay with the same lineup, I would rather play Bridges for 4K than Ariza for 5,100.
Yeah, very different on DK. Bridges only $200 cheaper than Ariza on FanDuel. I would rather have Ariza in that spot then.
Yeah.
Again, this is not going to be all that appealing to me on a short slate. Actually, I don't have anybody else to talk about on this team. What else you got? Nothing? Anything?
TJ Warren.
6,700 on DK. Yeah, it's 5% ownership, so it won't take much to get leverage on that number.
I mean, just 38 to 40 minutes against Chicago.
Yeah, I'm in for 37 right now.
Yeah.
And I guess that.
As an aside on the game stacking thing, I actually agree. Like, I hate game stacking on huge slates. The reason that I think it's appealing on DraftKings is because you have an entire team that's underpriced. And so the correlation makes it worth it. In general, though, I don't like game stacking.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on. This one's fun. The Cleveland Cavaliers hosting LeBron James and the LA Lakers. Cavs 106 implied total. Lakers 115. I'll tell you one thing. J.R. Smith isn't playing for the Cavs tonight. Bring back shirtless JR. Start with Cleveland, I guess. There's not really any ownership to any of these guys outside of Chetty on DK for 4,300. No one above 5% on FanDuel. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a single guy that I want to talk about. So is anybody standing out for you from Cleveland?
If the starting lineup's the same as last time, I think that Nance is interesting because it's a spot where he should do well. I mean, it's just the huge up-tempo spot, and that's where I like rostering Nance. But he got in a little bit of foul trouble in their last game, but he was going to play like 17 or 18 first half minutes in that one. So
revenge narrative?
I mean, that too, but more so, Larry Nance minutes narrative.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, still not like necessarily something to prioritize because I do prefer him a lot when he's playing center instead of the 4. But if they're basically turning him into the 4 now and playing Chetty at the 3, I think it makes him kind of appealing.
How many minutes do you have for Nance tonight?
Trying to find that game, but
he played 20 in the most recent game, 26 the game before that.
The one with 26, I think, was where. What date? Why can't I find this game?
Did they really have 5 days off, or am I missing a day in my data?
That's probably why I can't find them.
Did they really have 5 days off?
I can't find a game since the Washington game on the 14th.
They played on the 19th.
Okay. So the 19th was 2 days ago.
Okay. Yep, they really did have 5 days off. They played on the 14th, and then they played on the 19th. The Washington game was the 14th, and they played the Pistons.
Yeah. So the game against Detroit, you got 20 minutes from Nance, but he played 9 minutes in his first stint. Then he picked up 2 fouls in 3 minutes at the rest of the half. If you assume that he was going to play from the time he came in the second quarter to the end of the first half, that was going to be another 9-minute stint, which would have put him at 18 minutes. He played 8 minutes to open the third, and then he never came back. But that was a game that they closed with Ante Zizic, Harrison, Nwaba, Clarkson. Like it wasn't a game where they brought back the starters in the fourth quarter. So I think that you can, if they're going to use the same lineup here, you can give Nance 30 plus minutes.
I just bumped him up to 25 right now. Something I'm going to dig into a little bit further. He's only $6K on FanDuel, which is a pretty appealing price point. I'm just really nervous about this entire team.
Right. So it jumps out to me as the kind of spot that you can look. I just like trying to take advantage of these spots in tournaments where you have a highly productive guy with questionable minutes, but that it looks like everyone's under projecting his minutes by like 8 to 10. And there's a real chance that he just goes out here and plays like 34 minutes based on the rotation he played last game. In a spot where I would expect him to just blow his salary away if he does do that. So, I mean, it's definitely something I'm going to look at more, but just looking at this game against Detroit, it looks like he was going to play like 34.
Okay. What do you want to do with Jordan Clarkson? Because chat seems to be stroking him off.
I mean, assuming Sexton's in, I just don't really know where the Clarkson minutes come from. Like he was playing alongside J.R. Smith, so it's not like he's getting a bunch more minutes there.
Yeah. I'll never understand questions like that. Just in general, like, what do you think of Clarkson if Sexton doesn't play? Like, you're asking that question, you already know the answer.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah, so I mean, where Clarkson potentially gets his minutes is you need him to close over like Hood or Chetty or Nance. You need him to get into the closing lineup, which is not a given. We've seen him in sometimes, we've seen him not in other times, but even so, with Sexton in and with Chetty back, you're still looking at like 27, 28 minutes from Clarkson, where certainly he can do stuff. But on this slate, I just have a hard time really getting to him.
Yeah, I agree. Not a guy that I'm all that interested in, at least not right now.
Like, I think I would rather play Sexton, assuming he's in, just because I would project him for, 6 to 8 minutes more than Clarkson plays.
I'm with you. Anybody else from Cleveland outside of Chetty at 43?
No, Chetty and Nance are the two that are most appealing to me.
Let's go to the Lake Show, and LeBron James returned to Cleveland. 11-5 on FanDuel, 11-6 on DK. We're really not projecting all that much ownership, although of all the guys on the slate that can be modeled for ownership today, I think LeBron going back to Cleveland might have a little bit extra factor that you probably can't really quantify. So certainly not going to be 1% owned on DK. I'll probably bet my life on that. But it's hard to say like, oh, well, he's the best player ever coming back to Cleveland for the second. It's not one of the variables, Right. What do you want to do with LeBron?
I mean, I love LeBron here. Assuming he is going to be the problem I have with LeBron is that I assume not that he's a bad play at all. Like I love LeBron, but I assume that given the context of the slate, he's just going to be higher owned than numbers would suggest he should.
Yeah,
for the reasons that you just said.
Yep.
And when you also talk about him being like on DraftKings, he's $1,000 more than Kevin Durant. He's more than Davis. He's more than everybody. So it makes it kind of tough to get there. I certainly think that he has 80-point upside. There's not really any question to that, I don't think.
I'm with you. I feel like they'd cheer him if he did it too. They don't give a shit about this Cavs team right now. It'd be the coolest thing they see. Look, he's a tough sell for me at this price point with everything else that's out there, but I certainly understand why you would want to play him.
Right. And the one thing that does stand out as appealing outside of, the great matchup and the narrative and the fact that he just had a 42% usage rate when he played Miami is that with Rajon Rondo out, you do see more ball handling for LeBron when he plays his minutes with the second unit. You do see a boost in assist percentage this season when, in the games that Rondo's missed. So there is actually reason to boost his projection outside of narrative as well.
Circling back to the last game, because we had a question in premium chat, but I'm confident we both have the exact same answer here. Can you play Booker and Levine in FanDuel? Yeah. Those are two guys that have no tie to each other whatsoever from a fan.
I mean, they have a positive one.
What?
They have a positive one.
Right. What I mean is, like, they're certainly not taking away from each other on the basketball court. They're more likely to just want to go at each other and continue to shoot and shoot and shoot.
Yeah, it could very easily just turn into a Devin Booker versus Zach LaVine dribble down, pull up threes, drive to the rim game.
Yeah, I'd be more likely to play them together than not play them together.
Yeah, for sure.
Just wanted to touch on that because I just saw it now. Rest of the Lakers. Brandon Ingram, 6,300 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. Anything for you?
I do like Ingram. He got 36 minutes last game. He played most of his time was with Ball. Ball just didn't play that many minutes. So I expect Ingram to be less productive if Ball does play his full allotment of minutes here, just because you get the ball out of Ingram's hands a bit. But I think the price tag's still appealing to me.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think we need to talk about Lonzo here. 5,600 on both sites. He is a guy that is going to pop up a lot for me, particularly on FanDuel at that price. What do you have him projected for minutes? I guess let's start there.
I mean, I'm going to put him at 30. I don't have a ton of confidence he gets there.
Yeah.
But I think if he plays well, you see him play 30, maybe even more. Yeah. If he doesn't play well, there's still a million ball handlers on this team that can just take his minutes.
I have him at 29 right now. And, I basically could have just spun the wheel and picked a number. Otherwise,
right.
I don't get it. They're getting to a point now. I hate sensationalistic takes like this, but like they're getting to a point now where if he's not playing like 30 something minutes with Rondo out and the opportunity to make like the play, they need to start thinking about how they cash that in.
Bradley Beal. But
in a way that makes sense in that, like, you don't. Oh God, that's so weird. You can't play him in. Well, I mean, like you can play him and Wall together, I guess, but that really it makes.
It would be it would be a terrible fit. I was just like, if you're gonna blow up the Wizards and you're gonna trade Wall like in the offseason or something, then suck it up this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the nice thing, the thing that I like here is that even if I project Lonzo for like 30 minutes, or even if I put him to like 32 minutes, I get him as a good but not great play. And so that makes me feel a little bit better since I can kind of confidently not roster him.
I noticed that Adam likes players that play good every 1 in 4 games. I guess he's always playing game theory.
Yeah.
I assume you're not only using game theory. You can't see my quotes on like Tuesdays and Sundays. It's probably an everyday thing for you.
Yeah, it's a kind of big part of how I approach lineups.
Yeah, you may consider it like the main tenant.
Yeah, some are projections and game theory. It's kind of it.
It'd be weirder if you were like, nah, I don't use it at all.
Yeah.
At least it would be weirder to me. Anybody else standing out for you big time here? I would like to point out Kyle Kuzma at 5,500 on FanDuel, 5,200 on DK, and unfortunately, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for 3,900 on FanDuel.
I wouldn't play them together.
I will not play them together.
Seeing as how Kuzma played 21 minutes last game because KCP played the last 17 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not getting to them on this slate. I think that Kuzma's price tag is low enough that he absolutely could give you like a really, really good game here. I'm just concerned about the minutes because of how many guys they have. He's not playing backup center anymore, which sucks. You have Chandler and McGee basically splitting all the center minutes. So you're not getting much Kuzma there, if any. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate it if you're playing 150 lineups because it does have ceiling. He is going to be unowned, I would assume. but there's just more risk than reward for me given other options on this slate.
There we go. Minimize. We'll get back to anything else from LA.
No, I was just trying to figure out why Kuzma only played 21 minutes because it seems like he was actually playing reasonably well, and KCP like didn't do anything, at least offensively. I don't know.
Manningdale City. Love the show every day, but why do you only address dumb questions and trolls more than good questions? You let me know when those good questions come in, man, and I'll make sure to ask them. Well, that was a perfect troll
I was
answer.
gonna say because they're quick. I was gonna say they're quicker to answer.
Yeah. I'm not even trying to be funny though. There's very rarely are like real questions coming in. More just a discussion in chat and us talking. I don't mean that there can't be good questions. Let me be clear here, but they're very few and far between in a YouTube chat. Benji says perfect answer from Josh. Yeah, I figured that was coming. Let's move on. Houston and Detroit. Rockets 111.75 implied total. Pistons 103.25. Terrible. Hit that like button, by the way. James Harden for the Rockets, 11-1 on FanDuel, 10-9 on DraftKings. Sure, I guess.
Yep.
Kind of just he's just here today.
Yeah, it's to me, he's not even in really the conversation, and obviously that can come back to bite me. But when you talk about Harden with Paul, yeah, he still can get out there and give you 65, 70. But when you talk about LeBron in this spot, when you talk about Anthony Davis, when you talk about Embiid, you have Kevin Durant, who has sucked but still is playing without Draymond and without Curry, going against Oklahoma City. It's just you have guys in this price range that can give you 80 plus, and from Harden you're like happy with 65.
Yeah.
I didn't even mention Giannis. He's up there too.
True story. Giannis. Oh god, Giannis. What a dude. We'll get there in the next one. I want more out of Giannis.
Yeah,
from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah. He's been pretty disappointing for me from a fantasy perspective this year.
Josh is a great reason not to sign up for premium. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Chris Paul, 8,700 on FanDuel, 8,300 on DK. I'm probably good there. So that means that this is probably the game he goes crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather play Lowry. I'd rather play Drew. I'd rather play Levine. Talking about DraftKings where you can play these guys at the same position because they're basically the same price. I just don't get that interested in Paul or in Harden when they're both healthy.
Capella, unless 84. Go ahead.
No, I'll say unless they get like stupid inexpensive.
Yeah. Capella, 8,400 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DK. I don't have too much interest in Capella with noted big man defender Stanley Johnson on the Pistons.
I don't either, just because of the price tag obviously is appealing on its own on DraftKings, but it's still 2,100 more than Carter. It's 1,400 more than Cantor. It's 1,100 more than Ayton. There's a ton of upside at this position that you can get to without even getting to Capella.
Yeah, Capella, not a guy for me. This is going to be the game where Houston just goes bananas.
Yeah.
Uninteresting ownership. Do you want to talk about anything from Houston, honestly?
Nope.
Cool. To the Pistons we go. Andre Drummond, 10K on FanDuel, 9,400 on DraftKings. I like it, I guess, but I mean, they're 8.5-point underdogs in Houston. Terrible total. It feels like a bit of a tough sell, but I guess I'm saying I don't have much interest in Drummond.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think I feel the same way. Where like I like rostering him when he's 9,400, but I just don't really see getting to him on this slate. He's projecting well for me, but not as well as he normally does. He's a guy that a lot of times just like kind of breaks my projections and goes and projects for like 55 or 56 points. I have him at like 48.5 now. So just keeping in mind how I normally project him, that tells me that my projections don't really like him that much.
Yeah. Same for Blake. 9,200 on FanDuel, 9,500 on DK. That's just not something I'm really looking at. This game is just not coming off the page for me.
It's a game where I think that I would have a lot of interest if it were a smaller slate, because I think the matchup is fine for or good for basically all of these guys.
Yeah.
But it's just not where I plan on allocating much time on this one.
Yeah, the problem is just that like all of these guys are priced where they should be.
Right.
And there are so many guys on a 13 game slate that aren't.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's the perfect way to put it.
Of course it is. Do you want to touch on anybody else from the Pistons? There is no expected ownership on anyone else from Detroit on DK, and only 3% to Reggie Jackson on FanDuel.
Now, I would like to pretend this game is not happening.
I'll ask one question for you, but since you just said that, I kind of know the answer. Any interest in Langston Galloway for 3,800 on DraftKings?
No.
Okay. We move on.
I would rather. I'd rather play. Huh?
Yeah, that was a quick one. You would rather what?
Play Wilson Chandler for 3,400.
Okay. I'd rather play Wilson Phillips.
I don't even know who that is. Oh, is that damn it.
It's a girl band from the 80s.
Oh, wait. What's the name of the guy? What's the name of
Are you thinking of Wade Phillips, the coach?
Yeah. No. I'm thinking of Ryan Reynolds' character. Wade Wilson.
Oh, no. Yeah. Wilson Phillips is a chick band. Girl group.
Wade Wilson would have been nasty at football, though.
Sure. Milwaukee Bucks and Portland Trailblazers. Bucks 116 implied total. Blazers 110. Bucks with the tied for the second highest implied total of the day. Yeah, hold on for one more game. That's funny. We'll talk about Giannis to start. 11-4 on FanDuel, 11-2 on DK. Oh, man. Look, I want to play some Giannis. This feels like a good spot to play Giannis. We have LeBron, we have Durant, we have Paul George, back to a reasonable price as small forwards on FanDuel. What do you want to do with Giannis? You have him projected for 95 here or something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's really surprising to everyone that I currently have Giannis as the highest scorer on the slate. I don't know what to do with this guy. I mean, on one hand, I think he's running pretty bad. He's going to put it together sooner or later where he just has a monster game. Like, the usage is still there. Everything is still there. There's no reason to think that he's going to just keep being limited to like 55 points. On the other hand, though, I just have a hard time getting to him where, I mean, he is only $400 less on DraftKings than LeBron, in obviously a great spot. He's more expensive than Kevin Durant in a nice spot. He's basically the same price as Anthony Davis. I'm just having trouble prioritizing him. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with him, but right now I do have him projected as the top scorer.
I have him third. Fourth. Nope. Fifth. Russ, Embiid, AD, Harden, Giannis.
You have Russ scoring more?
I have Russ scoring the most.
Huh.
We'll get there, I guess. But yeah, he tops the DK list for me right now. Caveat: Russell Westbrook is the highest, has the highest ranking in my entire model. Like, independent of playing a game, just if I project out his normal per possession rates with fantasy scoring, he ranks at the top.
Yeah.
Giannis is fourth in that list. I mean, we're picking nits around most of those guys, generally speaking. Top back to this. Pricing's a little bit better on FanDuel here. Chris Middleton, 7,300 on FanDuel, 7K on DraftKings. Eric Bledsoe, 7,300 on FanDuel, 67 on DraftKings. Brooke Lopez, 56 and 53. Brogdon, 5 and 49. What do you want to do with the rest of Milwaukee here? I'm going to have like a little bit of these guys, but this is another game where I'd probably just rather watch it. Although the Milwaukee 116 total is appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at too. I'm not opposed to them. I like the $7,000 price tag for Middleton on DraftKings. I obviously like Giannis, but I'm just not sure how much I'm prioritizing them when, like, Chris Middleton's basically the same price as Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
I like that game more. I think Middleton and Butler are pretty close for me. But, I think that like that's a guy in that price range that is super close. yeah, I don't know. I don't have an issue with these guys, but I just kind of doubt that I end up prioritizing them.
Yeah, Middleton is $1,100 cheaper than Butler on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's really appealing.
Like D'Angelo Russell's $100 more. I like that. Probably more. Tim Hardaway is $200 more, which I don't like, but it's appealing, I guess. Just a tough price point for me. I don't know. I don't really like all that much of Milwaukee outside of Brook Lopez.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm there with you. Like it feels like another game where the guys are, for the most part, pretty correctly priced. Like I expect them to be productive. It's just that I have trouble picking out which one, outside of potentially Giannis, just like blows everything away.
DFS Mastermind is back. I haven't seen you in a while, man. Looks like you're keeping to that, capitalizing the first letter of every single word, man. It's good that you held on to that. We'll go to Portland.
My chat's way behind, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
That can't be possible.
I'm pretty sure we're still on like the Celtics game or something.
You try scrolling down?
I can't even see where the scroll bar is.
Oh my god, dude. You on a typewriter?
I feel like EMAC trying to work a computer right now.
Oh god. Okay. Let's talk Portland. 9,400 for Dame, 9,200 on DraftKings. This is one of the few spots where I'm not super interested in Dame Lillard.
I agree. I mean, it's not even a spot that I dislike. It's actually Milwaukee's been playing really fast this year, which is nice. But I feel the same way about Lillard that I do about Kyrie. He absolutely can just smash in this spot, but he's more expensive than Lowry. He's more expensive than Holiday. He's more expensive than every guy that I've named when I've said this 5 times during the show.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I don't like the matchup. Bucks defense is solid. Eric Bledsoe, long arm defender. It's just, Lillard priced where he should be. They're heading into Milwaukee, which, it's probably hard to get up for a Milwaukee game the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I can see that.
A few spots that'll be less appealing. So the question will then become, who does stand out to you from Portland? I mean, I'm clearly going to be on CJ McCollum because I woke up today. But
I mean, Yusuf Nurkic, obviously. 6,700 on DraftKings. People still just do not play this guy. I have absolutely no idea why. He was 14% owned yesterday on a 4-game slate. He played just eyeballing it. It looks like he played somewhere 30 to 32 minutes, probably. That's kind of what he's been playing. And it hasn't really changed that much outside of blowouts and foul trouble. He averages like 1.3 points per minute. He's facing a Milwaukee front court that is not going to slow him down. Like the only thing that could possibly be a negative here is that if Brook Lopez pulls him away from the basket, he loses a few rebounds, but he should make up for that in efficiency against this front court. So I don't know. I still love Nurkic here.
What do you think about him for 7,700 on FanDuel?
I still think that's too cheap. I think it's too cheap because I assume that FanDuel's center pricing in general is tighter than DraftKings is. So the guys on DraftKings that would be way cheaper than that are probably priced right around them.
Yeah, it is
like
kind of tight.
Ayton.
You said something. I think you said something about Ayton.
Yeah, like Ayton's similarly priced on FanDuel to Nurkic, right?
$700 cheaper.
It's close. That's actually really close.
Cantor is $1,200 cheaper.
Okay, then yeah, I would take Cantor. So yeah, pricing over there is actually softer today than it has been for a while.
Just in that area. They aggressively price Embiid, Towns, Drummond, Jokic, Marc Gasol, and then everybody sort of just softens.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so I guess
Portland, Evan Turner's renaissance with Mo Harkless out.
He just has no upsides, my thing. Like he's one of those guys that, and I think I've said that about 2 or 3 guys this year, and then they go out and score 40. But he always projects well on a point per dollar basis. But when I start trying to figure out how he actually gets me like, 35 raw points or something, it just becomes so thin that I can't really do it. So, sure, he's a good point per dollar play at 4,100. He should play 30 to 32 minutes here. He, handles the ball plenty, but I just question his, actual raw point ceiling.
He got a really big putback yesterday, 2 days, whenever they played. I didn't have him, but I wanted that Portland game to go to OT, and he got like a big putback, like rebound and putback with 30 seconds to go. And I was like, oh, was that a Minu? Because I desperately need a Minu to do something. It's like, nope, Evan Turner. What a dick.
Worth pointing out, I guess, that once again in the first half, yesterday, Lillard and McCollum's minutes were not staggered. In the second half, they were. So you get 4 or 5 point guard minutes from McCollum in the second half, but it also has a trickle down effect to Evan Turner in that he basically is the backup point guard in the first half, but not the second half.
Move on. 1, 2, 5 games left. We're at an hour and 35 minutes. We're actually moving faster than I would have expected. And there's going to be at least one game where we're not talking too much. Minnesota and the Nuggets. 108.5 for Minnesota. 106.5 for the Nuggets. Start on the Minnesota side. Karl Anthony Towns, 10K on FanDuel, 8,800 on DraftKings. It's going to be pretty hard to avoid 8,800 on DK for Cat.
Yeah, really nice price tag, obviously. The only thing that would make me have trouble getting there is Wendell Carter and Nurkic and Cantor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nothing really to dislike there. Obviously, Denver's been respectable defensively this season. They don't play fast, but still, when you look at Towns without Jimmy Butler, it's just a completely different player. Obviously plays huge minutes here for Tibbs, so really difficult not to like him. We just got to Deadpool in chat where I'm looking.
What? Dude, refresh whatever you're looking at. Also, sorry to report, someone from LFO died?
The band from like the 90s?
Yeah, the light funky ones sang Summer Girls, Girl on TV. No?
I'm sure I've heard it.
Well, one of the guys had already dropped. Apparently I just got a text from the wife saying another one bites the dust, so sorry to LFO. Makes me sad. Makes me really sad. Good dudes. Tried to go see him when I first moved to Wilmington. We're going to go, but they canceled the show. Shame. And now that concert venue is the Waffle House. True story.
That's an interesting change.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a Waffle House in a place where you would not expect a Waffle House. And those things go into really weird places.
Yeah.
Why does Josh have these moments of temporary insanity? It's not insanity. I got that text from my wife. It's like one of the most important things we'll talk about today.
I was going to say it's not temporary, but either one.
That's also true. Anything?
Oh, there we go. I just saw the question about your insanity, so I think I'm almost caught up to actual chat.
There we go. Welcome to it. So I think there's one really good play here for Minnesota outside of Towns at 8,800 because he's Towns. You ready?
Yeah.
What do you want to do with Dario Saric, 4,600 on FanDuel, 42 on DK?
Yeah, those minutes are looking pretty appealing.
They really are, right? If Dario Saric is playing 27 minutes tonight, which is what I have him at, I'm curious your thoughts on 27 minutes?
So the concern obviously would be, is he always going to close over Taj Gibson? But I would think that more times than not, the answer is yes.
Should be.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why you would want it to be a different answer, but we're not Tibbs.
And especially for tournament purposes, I think that you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Just, keep in mind that if he pops into, 60% of your lineups, you probably don't need that much. But so just keep in mind projecting him for 28 minutes is a risk. But I think that you're basically like you're seeing 48 minutes split between him and Gibson. We saw earlier this season stretches where Gibson was playing 26 and Tolliver was playing 20. So it really kind of seemed like they were trying to not run Gibson into the ground as much. That kind of went by the wayside once that wasn't working out. But now you have Saric, who obviously is much more talented than Anthony Tolliver is, and he should easily be able to play 28 minutes, give Gibson, kind of a rest, every game play 20 to 22. So, yeah, I think that is a really nice price tag on Saric.
Yeah, I agree. Not even really getting all that much ownership either, so. That would be who I'm looking at here. I don't really have any like passionate interest in Wiggins or Teague or Rose or Covington. So just
Neither do I.
Cat for me and Sarge because of his price.
Yeah, Saric isn't even really projecting that well for me right now. I'm trying to figure out if there's a mistake or something.
He's the
But I
best
still
value on the Wolves for me right now.
Cat is for me.
He would be 2 for me. I have
Um,
Sarge for 24.8 on DK.
Needed to bump his usage. He's been getting more with Minnesota than he was with Philly.
Okay.
So yeah, I like him more now that I did that.
All righty. Gonna move to the Denver Nuggets, unless you have anything else you want to touch on for the Wolves.
Nope.
The number one offensive center in basketball, Nikola Jokic, 9,300 on FanDuel, 9,700 on DraftKings. 9,300 for Nikola Jokic on FanDuel is a very, very, very appealing price point, even when he is only at 4% ownership. What do you think about Nikola Jokic tonight and his ceiling as the best offensive center in basketball?
I love the price tag on FanDuel in particular. He's cheaper than he is on DraftKings. You don't have all the underpriced guys like you do on DraftKings. So, yeah, I mean, it's a spot that I really like him. Obviously, he should be able to score. He does everything when he's on the floor. There's nothing for me not to like about Jokic.
He is $700 cheaper than Drummond, $700 cheaper than Towns, and $1,900 cheaper than, at best, the second offensive center in basketball, Joel Embiid. So
yeah, I mean, I think that those prices, relative to everyone else, is what really makes him stand out on FanDuel. He, aside from the fact that he's cheaper than he is on DraftKings in like real terms, but like on DraftKings, he's what 900 more than Towns. On FanDuel, he's less. So yeah, just clearly a great FanDuel play.
perfect. That's what I like to hear. Let's talk about the rest of this Nugs team. Not a lot of ownership going here on the DK side or the FanDuel side for that matter. So are there any values that you like? I know for me personally, Paul Millsap would be the first guy that I would look at. He's 5,900 on both sites, which makes him a little bit more interesting on FanDuel. I would say the inverse for someone like Trey Lyles at 3,800.
I don't really have anyone like popping out to me here. It's obviously a good matchup. I think Gary Harris at 5,800 would be a guy that I'd be interested in tournaments just because he can go off at that price tag. Monte Morris, I just don't have projecting that highly. I think he plays around 26 minutes, but yeah, I don't really have anyone here that is standing out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way. Gary Harris actually coming up a little green in my value column, 5,800 on DraftKings, but I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah. Trey Lyles at 3,800 is like, I would love to play that if he just had a path to minutes. Which
yeah, for sure. I mean, per point per minute guy, always very interesting when you're sub 4K. Yeah, it's just not a lot to like here outside of Jokic, which should be obvious.
Yep.
Play him at 15,000 on FanDuel. His offensive ceiling. Go to Dallas. Oh, somebody mentioned this before, and I wanted to bring it up, and then you mentioned chat not being there, so I didn't point it out. I called LeBron the best ever. Where do you land in that debate? Or do you care at all?
Don't care at all, but I was too young for Michael Jordan, so I'm very willing to give it to LeBron.
Sure. Gotcha.
Like my memories of Michael Jordan are when he came to the Wizards when I was like 11.
Hey, that's good. Very different, Jordan. Mavs and Nets. 110 implied total for the Mavs. 104.5 for the Nets. We'll start on the Dallas side. DeAndre Jordan, 18% projected ownership on FanDuel, 27% expected ownership on DraftKings. Someone asked at the beginning of this entire video, like, oh, Josh, you going to be on your boy DeAndre again? First of all, I have no idea how DeAndre Jordan became my boy in any of this. I mean, clearly I said something at some point in time. I don't have any of them, and he's apparently chalk. So what do you want to do with DeAndre Jordan here?
I want to play him at 7,100 on DraftKings.
Right.
It's just, yeah. I mean, it's just a spot where I think that he's a really good play. The only, it's obviously a really deep position, and if he is going to be that popular, I'm fine just playing other high upside centers. But I mean, this Brooklyn team, even though Jared Allen is capable as a defender, that's not something that concerns me when you're talking about DeAndre Jordan, because he's not really someone that needs defending. He just gets rebounds and putbacks basically. And Brooklyn, even though they're one of the slower teams in the league, they're still in the bottom 10 in rebounds allowed per game and offensive rebounds allowed per game. So that kind of just speaks to how inefficient they are at actually grabbing rebounds. You just saw last night a 20-20 game from Hassan Whiteside. I wouldn't at all be surprised to see the same thing out of Jordan here. And he's just too cheap.
Yeah, look, I get it. At 7,500 on FanDuel, he's just kind of jammed into a group of other perfectly reasonable guys. Gobert 7,900, Nurkic 77, Randall 75, Jordan 75, Adams 73, Willie Cauley-Stein 71, 8 and 7,000. There's just so many bodies there that I have a hard time fixating on one of them. But clearly, DeAndre Jordan's matchup is fantastic. Playing centers against the Nets is not some new thing.
Right. He's out of that group. He's the guy that in a vacuum I would like the most, but I think that that's going to be popular opinion. And I don't think that he's different. He's different enough where I would want to eat chalk there when I could just, be overweight on the other four guys that are priced near him.
Right. If DeAndre Jordan gets 18% expected ownership and Yusuf Nurkic is at 1 and Randall is at 1 and Adams is at 1 and Willie Cauley-Stein is at 1, I can't play the guy at 18 then.
Right. He's the cash center for me.
That is a great way to point that out. Yes. It would be hard to not be comfortable with DeAndre Jordan as a cash center today.
Yeah, if you take out ownership, he's the best point per dollar center play.
Yep. I completely agree with you. Do you want a bunch of $6,800 Luka on DK?
Yeah, I like Luka.
So does the public. 23% expected ownership on DraftKings.
That's annoying.
What's his eligibility now? It waxes and wanes.
It changes daily. Point guard only.
Okay, yeah. I'd like it a lot better if he was what he should be.
Yeah, I mean, he's just underpriced. There's not really any way around it.
Yeah. And anything else from Dallas? I assume we have no Wes Matthews. I think that one's official. Don't know what we're going to get with the rest of the squad, but I'm not seeing a ton of interesting value here.
Yeah, I mean, if JJ sits, it solidifies Dennis Smith's minutes.
Yeah.
But still probably looking at 32, not 36. Luka probably plays around 36. And Dennis Smith Jr. did on DraftKings jump from 5K to 5,600, which, obviously it's still inexpensive, but I think that it does make, still a 10% increase. It does make a difference.
Any thoughts on if Dennis Smith Jr. doesn't play?
If Smith Jr. doesn't play and JJ plays, then...
clearly play all of the JJ.
Well, maybe. Remember that happened before, though, and you saw Jalen Brunson get Dennis Smith Jr. minutes for the most part, and JJ kind of kept his role. I think JJ would still play 24 to 26 minutes.
Yeah,
which
on FanDuel at 4,100, JJ Barea becomes a really, really nice play.
Yeah, and 4,400 on DraftKings too. I think my point was just don't pencil Barea into 32 minutes or something.
No. I would expect a little bit of time to go, additional time to go to Devin Harris, and a lot of additional time to go to Jalen Brunson. Yeah, I have Dennis Smith in. I assume he plays.
Yeah, I'm assuming he does too. But I also, if he's out, I assume you just get a more productive Luka.
Yep, I would agree. Go to Brooklyn.
Yep.
D'Angelo Russell. I had quite a bit of him yesterday. He's 7,400 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DK. I'm fine with having a little bit again. I don't find it as appealing tonight, though.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. Just obviously a bigger slate and more options. Since last season without Karis LeVert on the floor, he has a 29% usage rate. He has almost a 40% assist percentage, and he's playing more minutes now without LeVert. So I think he's underpriced. I just think that there's so many options on this slate that it gets tough. I would rather pay $400 less on DraftKings for Luka than Russell, just using someone in that price range.
Yeah.
So that's why he's a secondary option for me, but I still like him.
So we've talked about DeAndre Jordan. What do you think about Jared Allen, though? 6,800 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DK. That's a nice price point.
I just can't get there, I don't think. I'd rather play Carter. I'd rather play, Ayton. I just don't see getting there because you're probably only going to get, 30 minutes out of Allen, which you can make the same argument for Carter, but when you get to guys like Cantor and Ayton, you're either getting more minutes or you're getting more productive minutes at the very least from Cantor. And it's not a matchup that I love either for a guy that needs to grab rebounds and do a lot of peripheral stuff to get there. Like it's not a spot against DeAndre Jordan that I really like.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Looks good from a value perspective on the surface, but not something I'd really need to dig into. Do you want to go to anybody else from the Nets?
No, Dinwiddie's price tag jumped enough. He's up to 5,900 on DraftKings to where he has to be really efficient, I think, to pay that off.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, I was gonna say Alan Crabb at 3,900 if you're max entering and need a value guy. He's been one of like the worst guys in the NBA as far as shooting differential, like from last year to this year. So I expect him to start actually making more shots, but it's still Alan Crabb.
There we go. This one should be relatively quick. San Antonio Spurs hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. 101.5 implied total for the Spurs. 99 for the Grizzlies. Anybody in this game?
I totally forgot this game was on the slate.
As you should.
5,300 Rudy Gay is like as excited as I can get for this game.
$4,500 slow-mo revenge narrative. This fucking game. Look, LaMarcus Aldridge is slowly working his way into dead to me status because I am recommending him in positions where he should be mashing teams, and he is just not doing that.
Yeah, he's been shooting pretty poorly.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. Really? No love for Gasol?
We've named like 800 centers that are good plays.
Yeah, I don't. There shouldn't really be love for anybody in this game.
Right. I don't think Gasol's a bad play. I'd be really surprised if Gasol's the highest scoring center.
So would I. In this game in particular.
Top 3 or 4. Right.
It's slow. It's the lowest total on the board. I can't imagine singling something like this out. Nobody's really priced like it's a benefit.
Right. Like I just don't see, even factoring in ownership, how paying on DraftKings, how paying 7,800 for Gasol instead of finding $1,000 for Towns or saving money and going to Jordan or Ayton or Nurkic or whoever is profitable. Like I'm just trying to pull up now and see where he ranks just among centers in my baseline on DraftKings, but I have a feeling he's not even going to be like on the first page. Yeah, so I have him 1, 2. If we include Blake and Anthony Davis, I have Gasol 12th in raw points, and that's not not counting value. Just raw points. I have him 12th among centers, so like 10th if you take out Davis and Blake.
Yeah, it's not a good fantasy game on a 13-game slate. That said, like, would it shock me if someone had 4 of these guys and they got those 4 right? No, like somebody's going to be fine, but to pick that before the game is a real difficult proposition.
Yeah. If I sort by value, he does not make my first page of centers.
There you go. Moving on. Said that one would be quick. Hour 53. We're going to get in here pretty close. Utah Jazz hosting the Sacramento Kings. 114.25 implied total for the Jazz. 104.75 for the Kings. Oh, this Jazz offense, man. We'll start with Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is 7,900 on FanDuel, 7,800 on DraftKings. What do you want to do with Rudy here? Because I didn't get him at all, and he's chalky.
I feel the same way about him I do about Gasol. Like I like the spot better for Gobert than I do for Gasol, but it just kind of feels like it's not a play that you win with very often. Just because of how he is relative to other guys. Like I'm a pretty big Gobert fan, and I think I've been higher on him than a lot of people over the last year plus. But I just think it's a really gross spot. Like he projects as a good play, but he just doesn't project as good a play as a lot of other guys.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's just there's too many other center options to prioritize Gobert here.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell 7,600 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DK. Dude's been an enigma this year. I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, I'm pulling up. I actually don't know what I have him projected at. I like him at that price. I like him in this matchup. I shockingly don't have him projected to do that great. But yeah, I mean, I like Mitchell more than my projections do.
So do I. He grades out really well for me on DK. That $7,200 price is really nice, but oh man, it's just I can't figure out what he's doing. He doesn't. He seems like he's in his own head. 30 shots one night and then just like a ghost the next. I don't know. Something's wrong in Utah. I can't really figure it out. They need something. I expected more out of this team. So I assume most people did.
Yeah, they've been pretty disappointing. But yeah, I mean, I think that the upside is clearly there for Mitchell. Like, he's been disappointing this year, but you're still talking about a guy that has about a 30% usage rate in a huge pace up spot against a Sacramento team that's not great defensively either. I don't think there's any question that he has upside. I think he probably has. Who do you like more at basically the same price, Mitchell or Butler on DraftKings?
It's got to be Butler, right?
I just kind of feel like Mitchell's the one that's more likely to go take 30 shots.
Such a better game for Butler. Let me refresh this just so I could look at it with them next to each other. Where's Mitchell?
And I think Mitchell plays more minutes.
Mitchell and okay, so they're on top of each other here. Butler projected 24% ownership, Mitchell 15. I have Butler projected for 4 more fantasy points than okay, so that's interesting. You'll probably have something different here, and this will change it. And I'll refresh it to take a look. How many minutes do you have Mitchell in for?
36.
How many minutes do you have Butler in for?
34.
I basically have the opposite of that.
Oh, okay.
I have 33 for Mitchell and 35 for Butler.
I actually have I have them projected almost identically, like both between 38 and 39 fantasy points.
What did you say you had Butler at? Minutes?
Minutes, 34.
Okay.
Which I think might actually be a little bit high.
It's close between the two. I just feel more comfortable saying Butler because I'm just a little nervous about Mitchell. I don't normally I try not to let that stuff creep into me. If I were playing 150, I probably wouldn't pay attention to it. If I were building a single lineup, I would probably lean towards Jimmy Butler.
I think Butler has the higher floor.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think that if I'm building single entry, I would just end up rostering whichever one I think is going to be lower owned, which in this case is Mitchell.
Yep. Makes sense.
In cash, I think I would go Jimmy.
You want any jingles at 5,300?
That price tag's appealing, man.
It really is.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen his name like this season in fantasy for myself.
Nobody plays him.
Yeah. Well, 5,300 should wake people up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly interested. Like we expected the production to come down from the beginning of the season, and it has. But in competitive games, he should still play about 35 minutes here. Like, there's no one taking his minutes. You have Royce O'Neal behind him.
People are tugging favors a little bit in chat. Do you have any interest at 4,500?
Yeah, I think that the price tag's too cheap. I just hate playing guys that are like not going to play more than 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tough sell for me in a tournament.
It's just like you need him to smash because he's not going to close. So you need him to just like smash those early minutes, which he certainly can in the spot.
Or hope Rudy Gobert gets hurt.
Yeah. I don't think that he disappoints you at this price. It's just really tough for him to, actually help you win a tournament.
I'm with you. You want to move to the underpriced Kings?
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox, 6,400 on DK. Any reason to not go right back to that?
Nope.
Agreed. Only 12% expected owned on DK. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like him nearly as much as I did the other day when he sucked.
Right.
But that's just a product of how many options there are on the slate, and that it's, a pretty big pace down spot against Utah. But
Utah turns the ball over a lot too. It's kind of interesting for Fox.
Yeah. And I mean, so obviously he let everyone down in that last game, but I think one of the big takeaways there was he still had 13 assists. I mean, he's just still locked into such a productive role here, and he shot poorly. He scored, I think, like 6 real points or something. That's not something that's going to happen very frequently. And Utah has struggled a bit defensively this year, at least compared to where we expected them to be. So I just think that the price tag is cheap enough that there is plenty of upside for him.
Dantar, good call, man. 500 people in here right now. Hit that like button. We're only at 80 likes. Be better. Be better, viewership. Willie Cauley Stein, 5,700 on DraftKings. Again, like, sure.
Yep.
Buddy Hield, 5,600 on DraftKings. I know you're not normally a big Buddy guy, but it's a reasonable price point for him.
Yeah, I mean, I like the price tag on all of them. I'm not jamming them all in like I wanted to against Oklahoma City, but I think that having one of them in a lineup makes sense.
What about the best young center? Best offensive young center in baseball. Baseball. Fuck me, man. I can't even get my own gimmick in. Do you want to play Marvin Bagley? Damn
it. So I don't like that he didn't play center last game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he did for a little bit, but for the most part, Giles played center. But Bielitsa only played 23 minutes. It seems like they are going to get Bagley his 26 minutes a night, whether it's at the expense of Bielitsa or at the expense of Harry Giles. So I'm not opposed to Bagley, but I liked him a hell of a lot more against Oklahoma City at 3,900 than I do tonight against Utah at 46.
Yeah, sign me up for some Bagley at 4,600.
I'm shocked.
Don't play him at outfielder. Yeah.
I mean, my thing at 4,600, like when you look at DraftKings pricing, is you're going to get 25 to 26 minutes of Bagley probably. You're going to get 25 to 26 minutes of Bogdanovich, and Bogdanovich is 4,100. I think I would rather just take Bogdanovich.
Erica says, I'm listening at work and it's church. Can we go with Frick instead? What's the point? Why do we use different words to replace other words? We all know what I'm talking about here. No word is worse or better. I don't believe in language like that.
I think his priest and his boss might disagree with that take, Josh.
Well, we won't get into that. This is a path I can't go down. Bogdan 4,100, Shump 36. Like, is there anything else you want to do from the Kings?
Yeah, I'm interested in Bogdan. I mean, the same issue. I have the same issue with him that I do with Favors, in that I think he'll be perfectly productive and during those minutes, but it's just so unlikely that someone playing 25 or 26 minutes puts up the raw points that you need, ignoring point per dollar, to win a tournament. So that's my issue with him. But point per dollar wise, I think he's fine.
You ready to close this out?
Yep.
The late night hammer heading in to Thanksgiving. Boy, is it a doozy. Could have been a real doozy, but not so much for the Warriors here. 111.75 implied total for Golden State. 110.75 for the Thunder. We'll start on the Golden State side. 10,700 for Kevin Durant on FanDuel. 10,600 on DraftKings. I feel like you're going to like KD here quite a bit.
I feel like I am too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's sucked. He's been really disappointing, but he's still a really good player. I don't think there's any questioning that. And you just look at the rates that he has. Like he's played 188 minutes this season without either of Curry or Draymond on the floor. Even as poorly as he's been playing, he's averaged 1.4 fantasy points per minute, 36.7% usage, 35% assist percentage. It's just still all the upside in the world for him as one of the cheaper, superstars on the slate.
Yeah, it would be really hard to not like him here.
I mean, it's a tough matchup. I'll give him that, but
Cavs expected to start Sexton, Hood, Osman, Nwaba, Thompson tonight.
All right, there goes that Nance take.
There you go. It just came out, so just wanted to announce that.
I'm glad we got that early, and I didn't have to play around with Larry Nance for like 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to not like Kevin Durant here. Revenge narrative, all that jazz. I don't have any other Kevin Durant hot takes. The price tag's pretty nice.
Do we have him projected to be really popular or
You guess the ownership.
18?
11.
Okay. He's like the opposite end of the like the LeBron thing for me, like where people are gonna find reasons to play LeBron because he's playing the Cavs. I'm hoping at least that people look at, even though he's playing OKC, like that people just look at Kevin Durant's game logs and he's been just so bad.
Now, they have looked bad with Curry off the floor. I've watched a little bit of them now, and their offense is just so stagnant, and I can't figure out why. But I guess not having Curry and Draymond Green on the floor hurts them.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
Yeah, wouldn't have expected 3 of the top 15 or whatever basketball players to, or 2 of the top 15, however, wherever you want to put Draymond in this list. It matters. The rest of Golden State, Klay Thompson, 6,800 on FanDuel, 6,600 on DK. That's a tough sell for me.
Yeah, I mean it's whatever. I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
It's just so expensive. You need him to catch, which he can certainly do. I'm sure he'll get up for this game. He has had big games against the Thunder before. One of them allowed Golden State to win a title.
I think also that Westbrook being back here and Ferguson being out is a boost for Thompson. Ferguson actually had been pretty good especially against like catch and shoot guys, like working his way around screens and stuff. This season, we'd actually seen him do a really good job limiting production. So now that you're getting back to a lineup that does not have that, you assume Paul George is going to be paying attention to KD. I think that it's good matchup wise for Klay.
Yeah. Do you want any of the rest of the Warriors? Iggy at 36.
I hate Iggy so much for fantasy.
So do I.
I was hoping they would put Quinn Cook back in the starting lineup once they weren't playing against James Harden, but they didn't. If Cook starts and we can put him back into like 33 minutes, then I'm interested.
Okay. I would agree as well. I'm good on the rest of these guys though.
Yeah, same here.
Russell Westbrook, 11,000 on FanDuel, 10-7 on DraftKings. He's my dude for today. 8% expected ownership on FanDuel, 7% on DraftKings. He's probably my favorite play of the day.
Well, I would hope so, since you said that he's your highest projected guy, and he's like 10.6K or something.
Yep. He banged the 65% ownership cap to start my day. Don't need that much, but yeah, I love it. It's really hard for me to not love it. There is one adjustment I do want to make, so it will bring him down slightly. I need to lower the pace of this game just a little bit. Warriors play quite a bit slower when Curry is not on the floor, and I have not made that adjustment yet. So shave off probably 2 or 3 possessions of this game, but for me, I'm going to have a ton of Westbrook. What do you think?
I don't have a problem with him. I just don't think I'm going to get, like, I think that at basically the same price point on DraftKings, I'm going to end up playing Durant over Westbrook, unless I can get to both. Like if value opens up, obviously, but
sure.
they clearly correlate strongly together. But yeah, I mean, I would prefer Durant just because I think that the guard positions are deeper, especially on DraftKings where all those shooting guards are point guard eligible, and Luka's a point guard. So that makes it harder for me to get to Westbrook on DraftKings, I think.
Okay. Yeah, at FanDuel, he's at 11. Next closest guy is Ben Simmons at 9,700. That doesn't feel that appealing to me. Dame at 94, Kemba at 93, Kyrie at 9, Lowry 89, Paul 87. Like all those guys don't feel all that great to me. Whereas in this particular game, Russ can be Russ.
Yeah.
So give me all the Russ. Do not give me all of the Paul George, however. 8,900 on FanDuel, 8,900 on DK. Are you looking at Paul George?
I'm not.
Yeah, same.
Sure, he can have a good game. I just don't see him as someone I'm prioritizing here.
Are you looking at anybody from Oklahoma City now?
Nope. Not outside of Westbrook.
What do you think of Schroeder for 6K on FanDuel? He's a shooting guard, remember.
Right. With Booker so underpriced there, I just still think I would want Booker plus one of the other like high upside guys, or to go even cheaper than Schroeder probably. He's playing so many minutes alongside Westbrook now Like he gets the backup point guard minutes, but Westbrook's going to play 36 to 38 minutes. So you're talking 10 to 12 minutes of productive Schroeder, and then 16 to 18 minutes of Schroeder just doing nothing.
Yeah, we only have him at 2% ownership, so I'm kind of happy about that because I'm getting him a decent amount. If he's at 2%, then I don't even have to really pay attention to it. I could put it in for 8 and walk away.
Like I'm pulling up his minutes alongside Westbrook and George now, so you figure this is like 2/3 of the minutes that he's probably going to play, and of course it's going to take an hour to load because I'm trying to talk about it. Everything's pulled up like immediately for me this entire show, and then this is just loading. But it looks like he's averaged. This doesn't seem right. No, it's because it hasn't loaded yet. All right, whatever. Ignore me. He's less productive when he plays with Westbrook and George, obviously. There we go. He's played only 73 minutes this season alongside George and Westbrook. That seems like it could be off. But if we assume these are right, he has a 15% usage rate. He's averaged 3/4 of a point per minute.
That's not good. Not good at all. Jeremy Grant, 4,400. Anything?
No. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not doing it in single entry.
Did we gloss over Jerebko too quickly? 4,100 on DraftKings. No Draymond.
It just feels like he's priced correctly. I mean, how often does he actually go out and score like 35 fantasy points? I know he did the other day, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't look. If you want to use him, I don't have a problem with it. He's 4,100, but
it's just good. Like I hate rostering guys like him once they get up into like the low $4,000 range because they end up. You can project them for 24 points, which is obviously good point per dollar. It's fine, but especially on big slates, like you need high scores to win tournaments, and wasting a roster spot on a guy that's probably going to get you like 24 raw points or 25 raw points really isn't useful, even if they're relatively inexpensive.
Totally agree. We've done it. No positions? Or do you want to do positions? Let's do it. We'll be nice. It's early. None of it will matter by the time it locks.
All right.
The point guard, Russ. I'm going to do some Lonzo and hate myself for it. Let's see who else. I think that the top half of point guard is really overpriced today on FanDuel. It's not a direction that I'm really trying to go. So I'm more paying down into like value plays. So guys like, I don't know, maybe Corey Joseph and Moutier and Terry Rozier. Like I just don't really like trying to figure out what's in the middle of point guard today. I like the high end of every other position.
Yeah. So I mean, I have Westbrook up there, but I don't think I really want to pay all the way up to him. Kyle Lowry, Luka Doncic, De'Aaron Fox, Trey Burke. Just know the risk you're taking with Trey Burke.
Yeah. Shooting guard, Jimmy Butler for me on FanDuel. CJ McCollum. I'm gonna have some Dennis Schroeder, Danny Green. Oh my God, I'm playing the wrong guys. But Zach LaVine and Devin Booker are probably the two guys that stand out the most for me.
Yeah, LaVine, Booker, Drew Holiday, JJ Redick.
There you go. Small forward, Giannis, KD. Good God, Wilson Chandler on FanDuel. Pricing not that great for small forward tonight.
Yeah, this is why I would like to pay up here instead of guard.
Yeah.
KD, Giannis, LeBron. I have them in that order right now. Jabari Parker, Wilson Chandler.
Ugh. Power forward. AD. I'll probably get a little bit of Pascal Siakam. I'm probably going to get a little bit of Kuzma. Saric is a prize at 4,600. Noah Vonleh. That's it.
Yeah. Anthony Davis, obviously. Parker, Siakam. Yeah, Vonleh's fine. Saric is fine. Ford sucks compared to guards today.
Does indeed. And center, Joel Embiid. Nikola Jokic is the star of the show. Not really going to be with the chalk of Gobert or DeAndre Jordan or DeAndre Ayton for that matter. A little Brook Lopez probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But Embiid and Jokic are the guys that I want the most.
Yeah, Carter at 5,500, Towns at 8,800 on DraftKings, Nurkic 6,700. Obviously, love Embiid. I like DeAndre Jordan a lot. I think in cash, I would end up pairing Carter and Jordan or Towns and Jordan, depending on how my roster construction goes.
There we go. 2 hours and 15 minutes, 13 game slate. That's not too shabby. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Wait patiently for this afternoon to get your hands on a 13-game edition of the deep dive coming out from Laffy. Then we'll have Adam and Laffy starting it up almost assuredly at 4:45 to do the deeper dive. And then Chris Baggs and Eddie Fear from 6 to 7 taking you all the way up to lock. We will not be back tomorrow. No NBA to talk about. So please, everybody, have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy yourselves. Adam and I will be back Friday morning to tantalize you with another monster slate. Do we know how many games are on that Friday slate?
14?
Is it really?
Yeah, I at least that's what Laffy said, because he's mentioned a couple times how he's getting absolutely shafted on the schedule here.
Yeah. There you go. So if you really enjoyed us going for 2 hours and 16 minutes on this 13 gamer, boy, do we have a present for you on Black Friday. Get here early. You don't have to camp out, but come to the chat early for the Black Friday edition of the NBA DFS Strategy Show. We're out of here, everybody. Good luck.